After a year-and-a-half-long wait, the fourth season of From is finally here. It's time to uncover the secrets behind the children, the reincarnations, and the immortal monsters. This show definitely has a lot of explaining to do, so let's dive right in. Remember that in last season's finale, a lot of things started making sense. We now know that the monsters are actually the town's original settlers who sacrificed their own children to a mysterious entity. Tabitha knows the truth now, and even though she managed to escape the town, she ended up coming back with someone else, Victor's father, who never gave up hope after all these years. As for Fatima, while everyone else thinks her pregnancy is hysterical and that she's losing her mind, Elgin decides to take her word for it. After all, nobody eats trash for fun or accidentally stabs people in the chest. But that's not the half of it. Remember the girl in the kimono? Well, she told Elgin that she can save everyone and get them out of town if he helps Fatima deliver her baby safe and sound. This kid doesn't crave breast milk though, it wants human blood. But after Elgin kidnapped Fatima and took her to a spot in the woods, Boyd ended up breaking the kid's fingers to beat a confession out of him. However, by the time Boyd reached the site, Fatima had already given birth, and the woman in the kimono had taken the baby to the caves. There, our sheriff witnessed the infant age at an accelerated rate, transforming into the very monster he had previously managed to kill using the small worms in his body. Meanwhile, Tabitha and Jade discovered that they are reincarnations of the original settlers who refused to sacrifice the children. Their mission is to save them, meaning they are the ones who have been at war with the monsters for generations. As for Julie, she found out she is a walker, a simple term for someone with the ability to visit and influence moments in the past. Since she hasn't mastered her power yet, she's only traveling to random points in time for now. When she tries to explain this to her father, the mysterious man in yellow appears, an incredibly powerful entity who rips Jim's throat open in a single move right in front of his daughter. But enough about the past. It's time to start the new chapter. The Season 4 premiere kicks off with Julie's gut-wrenching scream as she stares at her father's mangled throat while he bleeds out on the floor. Before she can even try to help him, the old man asks her which point in the past she's coming from this time. He's curious about what she was just about to tell her father and offers a twisted apology for interrupting. Luckily, she manages to get away before the same thing happens to her. At that moment, the old man tries to tell Jim that he actually liked him, mostly because Jim always found a way to catch his eye. Jim, in his final moments of agony, simply tells him to go to hell. The old man sighs, lamenting that Jim is going to miss what comes next, claiming it's always been his favorite part of the story. This is where we see a priest come across the fallen tree on the side of the road, forced to turn back and follow the path that leads straight into town. Right then, we cut back to Fatima, who is telling everyone the truth about what she witnessed during the birth. She knows for a fact that the original settlers sacrificed their children in exchange for immortality, and she needs to get this info to Boyd right away. But since the sheriff headed into the tunnel after the girl in the kimono, it's now up to Kenny to head down there and find him. Every step the kid takes down into the tunnel is creepier than the last. And it's not just the pitch-black darkness he's facing. The place is a total labyrinth, and his oil lamp isn't strong enough to light up more than a few inches in front of him. On top of that, the stench is overpowering, and the air feels heavy. Just when it seemed like something was about to end his life in a horrific way, Boyd appears behind him, claps his hands over his mouth, and kills the lamp instantly, warning him of the nearby danger. Before Boyd can get them out of there, the monster with the traumatized baby face shows up and greets him. For Kenny, this seems impossible because he saw with his own eyes how Boyd killed it. But now it's back thanks to Fatima's womb. None of it makes sense to Kenny. He remembers clearly how they burned it. And when Boyd tells him the baby aged in just a matter of seconds to become that thing, he's left completely stunned. Back at the house, Donna is dealing with Sarah, who, after getting the info out of Elgin, hasn't even changed out of her blood-soaked clothes and is acting like this is just another Tuesday. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Elgin is badly hurt while Acosta keeps watch. Donna tells her to get lost while they tend to the kid, but Acosta still doesn't know the house rules and refuses to listen. She decides to stay and watch Christy treat the wounds. But this is more than just a scrape. Sarah gouged his eye out with a screwdriver, and that's not something you see every day. Well, technically Elgin will only be seeing half of it from now on, with just one eye. At the same time, the old man in yellow digs up a briefcase from the ground that's clearly been buried for ages, containing a change of clothes he's dying to put on. Back at the station, Boyd pulls a box box of ammo from under the floorboards. Kenny has so many questions running through his head that he becomes a total nuisance, pestering him until Boyd finally asks him to count exactly how many people are left in town. That's when it clicks for Kenny. Boyd wants every person to have a bullet to take their own life if it comes down to it. What he saw in those caves is proof that there's no winning this battle. They've been fighting those damn things for way too long without successfully killing a single one. If the monsters can be born from the women themselves, all that's left is to accept defeat, and that means either being torn apart by those things or going out on your own terms. After hearing that, Kenny finally shuts up. He realizes the massive weight on Boyd's shoulders and tells him there are 47 people left in town. That means they need 47 bullets to put an end to this whole mess when the time comes. Over at the house, Christy has finally finished disinfecting the wound and is ready to stitch him up, but she needs Acosta to hold the kid's neck steady so he doesn't budge. Before she starts, Elgin tries to explain himself, but she tells him that this place brings out the absolute worst in people. It's obvious that something not of this world tricked him, and even though he lost an eye, others lose a lot more dealing with those things. Now she needs him to be incredibly tough because she has to run the sutures through his eye socket, and it's definitely going to hurt. Not far away, Tabitha makes it to the diner where she meets up with her kids, but something is seriously off. Based on what we saw before, Julie was right there when her father was brutally murdered, but at this moment in the story, she has no clue where he is. But before we can make sense of what's happening, a car appears out of nowhere, flying down the road and nearly sideswiping them. The commotion catches Boyd's eye just in time for him to see the car floor it and slam right into the police station wall, nearly bringing the whole building down. Inside the car, the father is unconscious, and in the passenger seat is his daughter, with hundreds of jagged glass shards pinned just millimeters from her neck. Tabitha tells her not to move, but the girl is panicking, which isn't helping at all. The girl's name is Sophia, and Tabitha only needs a few seconds to get her out, but her state of mind is making the rescue much more difficult. Luckily, Boyd uses some common sense and cranks the seat back, managing to get her out safe and sound, though she's understandably shaken up. As for the father, he has a strong pulse, but won't wake up. By the time they get the ambulance there, Sophia has calmed down enough to explain that everything started getting weird after they saw the log in the road. Her father seemed agitated, and a moment later started shaking while flooring it, nearly killing them both. When she saw the town, she begged him to stop, but he wouldn't listen, so she was the one who jerked the steering wheel, causing the crash. That's why she was so hysterical before. She was sure her split-second decision had killed her father, but hearing that he has a strong pulse and they're working to get him out has helped her settle down a bit. Marielle listens closely to everything she says. It's the same story they've heard from almost everyone who ends up in this town. A few yards away, Randall helps the others get the father out in time, and after a few minutes, they finally get him onto the stretcher. However, once they have both of them in the ambulance, Marielle confesses to Boyd that the guy looks like he suffered a stroke and she doesn't have the expertise to treat him. She never finished her studies, and her knowledge only goes as far as nursing. For now, the only thing she can do is get him to the clinic and hope for the best, which isn't much, but at least he didn't die in the crash and cause his daughter an even deeper trauma. Kenny tells Boyd that he'll handle things at the infirmary, but insists that Boyd needs to go see Fatima. She has a lot to tell him, and Ellis is losing his mind trying to make sense of the whole situation. Once the ambulance pulls away, the rest of the people who already know how this story goes decide to head home. They all arrived in town the exact same way, and they know it's a long, exhausting process to explain to newcomers that they're here for life, or until a monster with a human face rips them to shreds. As for Tabitha, she decides to head home with her kids, but Julie is still worried sick about her father and refuses to leave without knowing where he is. Right then, Jade shows up and tells them they need to be honest with everyone else, but for the moment, they don't have anything solid to go on. Jade warns them that if they start telling people what they saw, they'll just be written off as crazy, just like everyone else. He reminds her that Sarah tried to kill her son because she was convinced it was their ticket out of there. To her, that must have felt just as real, and look how that turned out. So Tabitha isn't about to let the whole town point fingers at her until they have more proof that what they went through actually happened. But right now, she has to worry about her husband, who hasn't made it back home yet with nightfall fast approaching. At the colony house, Boyd tries to get through to Acosta, but she tells him to go to hell, swearing that once backup arrives, he's going to answer for everything he's done. She snaps at him, reminding him that he's no hero, and he sure as hell isn't the sheriff of this town. He's just a lunatic who's going to rot in prison for what he did to that kid in there. Boyd tells her to just go home and stay inside, promising she'll understand everything first thing tomorrow. Once he gets to the colony house, Donna meets him, catches him up on the latest news, and asks what the plan is for Elgin. She doesn't trust the kid and doesn't want him in her house. But while she's talking, Boyd seems a million miles away. By the time he snaps back to reality, he just tells her to come upstairs with him. He has something he needs to tell them. As for Acosta, she makes it to the diner, but the place is totally deserted. She takes the opportunity to wash her face and try to clear her head, but the blood on her shirt is driving her crazy, and the realization that nothing in this town makes sense is starting to sink in. Suddenly, the jukebox kicks on by itself, playing a romantic ballad that would be fine at any other time, but right now, it just makes her more and more frustrated. She starts looking for a way to shut it off, but that's when she discovers a change of clothes. Back at the house, Christy is listening to Fatima's story. Even though her body shows the typical results of a normal delivery, and everything seems fine physically, her headspace is a whole different story, and Christy wants to know exactly how the birth went down. Fatima asks her what she really wants to know, if she wants to hear about the horrific cave she was trapped in, or about the dead woman in the kimono who helped her deliver her baby, a baby Christy told her didn't exist and was all in her head. She asks, with a bite in her voice, exactly which part of that nightmare she's expected to recount. A few seconds later, Boyd shows up. Even though he knows this is going to sound insane, he takes a moment to try and find the words to tell them what he saw down in the caves. Christy realizes things are about to get incredibly heavy and figures it's better if she leaves, but Boyd tells her to stay. He needs everyone to hear this because, honestly, he has no idea how to handle what he witnessed, and he's at a total loss for what to do next. The sheriff starts by describing how he chased the woman in the kimono through the tunnels. She was carrying the baby, or whatever that thing was, in her arms, but just as he was closing in, he realized there were way more of those creatures down there, so he decided to hunker down and watch. A few seconds later, the woman knelt and placed the baby on the ground. The thing started moving, slowly at first, but then something impossible happened. It began to age rapidly, growing until it could stand on its own 2 feet. That's when Boyd saw one of those smiling monsters emerge right then and there. When he finally got a clear look at what had emerged, he realized it was the exact same monster he'd killed that night back at the clinic. Fatima is absolutely reeling. She can't wrap her head around the fact that she was actually carrying one of those things inside her body. But that's not even the worst of it. The real kicker is when she starts telling Boyd what she saw during the birth, the vision that showed her exactly what those things in the woods were and how they became what they are today. They were the town's original settlers, and they sacrificed their own children in exchange for the power of immortality. But when Boyd asks her if she saw who they made the deal with, her memory fails her, and she starts to snap. She screams at them, reminding them that she begged for their help when the intrusive thoughts first started, warning them that something evil was happening to her. She insists that she wasn't the one who truly wanted to hurt the old woman. She calls them out for refusing to listen back then, and how only now, after something this horrific has happened, are they finally willing to hear what she has to say. Meanwhile, at the infirmary, Marielle and Kenny keep an eye on Sophia as she prays for her father to wake up. From what Marielle knows, this could take days or even weeks. And there's still the matter of explaining to the girl exactly what's going on in this place, like the very real possibility that she and her father might never leave this town, and that's before even mentioning the monsters that will rip you apart if you step outside at night. To Kenny's surprise, Sophia takes the news pretty well, reciting a few Bible verses that sound eerily similar to their current situation. Kenny tells her to stay calm and keep it down, explaining that the monsters come out at night, and he doesn't want her to have to lay eyes on one of them. Right then, Sophia asks him to pray with her. Kenny admits he's never been much of a religious guy, but he agrees just to make her feel better. Sophia's words are incredibly spot on, and they actually make Kenny feel a little more at peace. He tries to soothe her, mentioning there's no cell service and that they'll need to have a real talk soon. Meanwhile, we cut to Tabitha, who's standing in her doorway waiting for Jim to get back. But night has already fallen, and there's still no sign of him. Julie is losing her cool, begging her mom to tell her what she and her dad talked about earlier that afternoon, but Tabitha just snaps that she isn't in the mood to talk about it right now. After all, how do you explain to your daughter that you got into a fight with your husband because he didn't believe you're a reincarnated woman? A woman who's been coming to this town for hundreds of years to save dead children wandering the woods. Their argument catches her son's attention, and he's clearly worried sick too. Right then, Tabitha promises him they'll see their father tomorrow, telling him he probably just lost track of time and decided to bunk down in the truck, the RV, or the diner for the night. Back with Donna, she heads into the room to tell Boyd that there are are a lot of people anxious to hear what happened with Fatima's baby. He still doesn't have a clue how to handle it, but he fills her in on the father and daughter from the crash earlier that afternoon, which means 2 more souls they have to break into the endless cycle of this place. Every word out of Boyd's mouth is the cold, hard truth, especially the part about how Sophia and her father will likely end up dying there, just like everyone else. Despite everything, he used to wake up every single day, holding on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd beat those damn things and escape to find the lives they once had. But after what he saw in that cave, that hope is officially a thing of the past. The idea that the good guys win in the end is exactly what kept him focused until now. But if those damn things can just be born over and over again, and there's no real way to kill them for good, then what's the point of fighting? What's the point of struggling and watching good people die in horrific ways every single day? The game is rigged, and the winner is wearing a macabre smile while trying to slaughter them. They've always been 3 steps ahead, and the town never stood a chance. Boyd is done. He's ready to tell everyone that they're toast, and there's absolutely nothing they can do to get out of this place. But Christy stops him. She tells him she's seen enough horrific things in this godforsaken town to go insane, but she keeps fighting because she holds on to hope. She keeps treating the wounded because she knows one more day is worth it. She warns him that if he gives up and the rest of the people see the only man they trust lose hope, they're going to start finding bodies everywhere. In that tense moment, Ellis asks the girls for a minute alone with his father and tells him Christy is right. Out of everyone in this town, he's the one person who can't afford to waver. But Boyd tells him he can't keep doing this if he's destined to fail. He needs something to give him his hope back, but based on everything he knows so far, it feels like game over. The thought that everyone who has died, including his mother, died for nothing is absolutely tearing him apart. He feels like he's falling to pieces and needs something, anything, even the smallest sign, to give him back a reason to hope. Right then, the scene shifts to Tabitha's house, where the family is sleeping soundly in the living room until a loud crash from the kitchen jolts them awake. When they peer inside, they see a pot on the floor, and suddenly, the dishes and drawers start flying open on their own, as if a ghost were violently shaking them. A second later, we cut to the infirmary, where Sophia's innocent look has vanished, replaced by a cold, threatening determination. She seems to radiate power as she sits beside her father and places her hand on his chest. She whispers a single command, "Wake up!" and his eyes snap open. She tells him he needs to understand that he's a very good person who played a vital role in a story that will be remembered forever. At that moment, we see a flashback of the father from earlier that afternoon when he first came. The second chapter begins by reminding us that Sophia, the newest member of the community, is actually the man in yellow, the entity that rules this entire realm and finds joy in everyone else's suffering. While she strangles the man pretending to be her father, Kenny wakes up in the other room and worries about her, so he decides to head into the infirmary to see what is going on. There, he finds the door wide open and sees Sophia standing outside, weeping inconsolably in the dark. Kenny desperately tries to get her back inside quickly. He knows no one can be out at night, but through her heavy sobs and wailing, the boy cannot understand a single word she says. Suddenly, the tension peaks as one of those creatures appears, with a twisted smile on its face to greet them. Without wasting a moment, Kenny rushes Sophia back inside, while she continues to cry hysterically for her father. When Marilyn wakes up, startled by the piercing screams, the girl simply points toward the stretcher where her father's lifeless body lies. This grim revelation leaves the community in shock as they confront the terrifying reality that has infiltrated their sanctuary under the cover of night. Sophia's performance couldn't be any more perfect. It truly seems like she has done this more than once and genuinely enjoys manipulating everyone around her. At the same time this is happening, Boyd meets with Elgin and asks for a minute of his time to talk things over. The kid is obviously terrified of him. The last time they spoke, he ended up with broken fingers, and now he is missing an eye because of what he tried to do when he thought he was doing the right thing. But Boyd coldly reminds him that this is largely his own fault. He let himself be manipulated by one of those demons, and if the town finds out what they did to him to beat the truth out, well, that could really unsettle people. They need to agree on a story immediately that won't let that happen under any circumstances. So if anyone asks him, and they surely will ask, Elgin will say he lost his eye trying to help Fatima. That will be his official story, and he better learn it by heart. If he fails his part of this deal, then Boyd will tell everyone that he killed Tilly and put him in the box without a second thought. Elgin accepts the deal out of pure fear, but he dares to tell him that the truth always comes to light sooner or later. However, Boyd harshly fires back that if he actually wants to stay alive, it's better if that truth only comes out of his mouth under his specific terms. At the same time, this tense encounter unfolds. Acosta wakes up in the diner, feeling completely exhausted and uneasy about the situation. Just like her, Tabitha spent the entire night awake on the sofa, desperately waiting for her husband to show up, but that simply didn't happen. There has been no news of Jim since yesterday morning, which was the last time she saw him, before everything took a turn for the worse. The first thing Boyd sees when he steps out in the morning is an ominous, blood-stained canvas bag hanging from a post on the outskirts of town. The massive sack is large enough to hold an entire human body, and it will now be Boyd's responsibility to figure out what is actually hidden inside that bloody fabric. Meanwhile, many residents in town have already noticed this macabre discovery, especially the distressed Tabitha, since the bag is hanging right in front of her own house, fueling her growing terror. As soon as she spots it, a cold shiver runs down her spine, and her son begins to scream desperately, asking what exactly is inside that bag. She firmly tells him to stay inside for a moment, but the second she gets distracted, Ethan makes a run for it to try and pull the bag down himself. Boyd manages to stop him just in time and asks Julie to take him away to the barn while they handle this terrible situation. Tabitha begs her daughter to be brave and get her brother out of there. They need to think clearly, and Ethan's frantic screaming isn't helping at all. As soon as the children are gone, Tabitha demands that Boyd take the sack down immediately to end the agonizing suspense. With Jade's help, Boyd slowly lowers the bag. The weight of the sack perfectly matches that of a grown person, but it's the fresh blood that is chilling everyone's nerves to the bone. Moreover, the terrifying possibility that it might be Jim's body grows with every passing second of absolute silence. On the verge of a total breakdown, Tabitha desperately asks Boyd to let her open it herself so she can finally face the truth, no matter how grim it may be. All around them, the townspeople stand expectant of the fateful moment. However, when Tabitha finally opens the bag and discovers her son's dead goats inside, her horror instantly shifts toward the barn. There, Julie opens the door confidently to get her little brother's mind off things, but she stumbles right into her father's corpse, which has been macabrely staged. Tabitha arrives just a few seconds later and finds Jim's body hanging like a slaughtered animal from the barn rafters, his chest brutally exposed and his bones clearly visible to the eye. His throat is completely ripped apart, leaving behind a traumatic image that none of them will ever forget for the rest of whatever time they have left in this cursed place. However, Jim's corpse doesn't come alone. At the back of the barn, there is a written message. Knowledge comes with a cost, a clear warning for all the residents, especially for Boyd. Chasing the dark secrets of this realm carries a severe punishment, and Jim is the ultimate proof of that. Tabitha's screams are absolutely deafening, and the scene immediately cuts to the infirmary, where Sophia pretends to be praying for the man in front of her when she is actually laughing to herself while thinking about the agony the people in the barn are going through. She asks Kenny what happens next, and the boy tells her that he'll speak with Boyd to handle the necessary funeral arrangements. He's the sheriff and the one keeping everything in order for the time being. Additionally, he suggests that they can go out for a walk that morning to try and find her a pair of glasses that aren't broken. Meanwhile, back at Tabitha's house, little Ethan is losing his mind. The boy is deeply hurt and furious, smashing several plates and lamps as a desperate way to release his overwhelming pain. Through his tears, he begs his mother to go back home immediately, as he can't stand living in that horrible place anymore. But when she sadly explains that going home isn't possible right now, Ethan lashes out, calling her a liar. He then screams that everything is her fault because they were always fighting, and admits he would have preferred it if she had died instead of his father. These cruel words completely shatter Tabitha from the inside out. At the same time, Boyd and Jade take charge of lowering Jim's body and placing it in a proper spot for what's to come, but they still have to worry about the message on the wall. Perhaps being too curious really is the fastest way to wind up dead. Ellis shows up with something important to tell his father, but upon realizing the tragedy unfolding, the kid decides to put his business aside for later and offers to help with the burial. Accompanied by Jade, Boyd moves the corpse to the church, where they carefully place it on a stretcher. They need to clean him up thoroughly and find him some clothes to hide his open, mangled torso. This task must be finished before the children see him, so they can give him a proper goodbye. At that moment, Boyd repeats the phrase written on the boards out loud, and Jade realizes it's finally time to tell him what they know about their past and the reincarnations. Outside, Kenny runs into Sarah. She tries to introduce him to Sophia and asks where Boyd is, but once the boy hears what happened, he asks Sophia to wait a moment. Sarah kindly offers to keep her company and help her find a new pair of glasses. Before leaving, she looks at Kenny and says she's sorry. She knows Jim was close to him. Then, she takes Sophia away so that he can offer his help with everything that is currently going on. Simultaneously, Jade is explaining everything they experienced with the song to Boyd in great detail, trying to make sure he can understand the whole situation with absolute clarity before things get even worse. Even on their best days, this sounds like total madness, though in this place, you can expect everything and nothing all at once. The phrase, "knowledge comes with a cost," suggests that this tragedy is their own fault. They have been uncovering too many things about this place, and whatever is in charge of the town's dark side has decided to strike back hard. Boyd listens intently to every word Jade tells him. His theory might sound wild, but at least he doesn't look like a lunatic, and neither does Tabitha, so he decides to ask him what his next step in this whole mysterious business was supposed to be. Assuming everything he said is true, and they really have been reincarnating over and over again to help these children, then how exactly do they achieve it? What comes next after what they discovered? For the time being, Jade doesn't have a solid plan, and Boyd asks him to try a little harder and get him an answer, or at least a lead they can follow, to help him in his campaign for survival. Simultaneously, Acosta is isolating herself from everyone in the diner, lost in her own head, just as Sarah and Sophia walk into the place to find her something to eat, keeping the underlying tension in the room alive. At home, Julie waits patiently for the moment Ethan falls asleep so she can sneak out, but as soon as she leaves, the boy reveals he was only faking and plans to do the exact same thing. Donna is in the living room and doesn't agree with her going out alone under any circumstances. However, Julie curtly tells her to mind her own business and walks out without looking back. Julie goes straight to Randall, not for emotional support or comfort, but because she needs his help to reach the ruins. Her desperate plan is to use whatever is inside her to travel back in time and save her father, though that's a plan far too idealistic to actually be possible. Even so, Randall agrees to go along with her on this dangerous trek. As for Tabitha, Jade tries to urge her to accept that all of this is real. This bloody message is proof they were on the right track, and they can't afford to stop now. He argues they are just trying to scare them to keep them trapped in this place, and even though her husband is dead, she owes it to her children to keep fighting to get them out of there eventually. That's why she can't give up under any circumstances. She must continue collaborating with him to get to the bottom of the rabbit hole and help those children in the woods. This is in reality the only way they have to finally leave this place once and for all. But she confesses to him with a breaking voice that she is absolutely terrified. If such a cruel fate happened to Jim, then any of her children could be the next victim. She snaps at him, saying that maybe he's fine playing the hero against those things, but reminds him that's only because he has nothing left to lose in this world. Tabitha, on the other hand, isn't willing to put her children in even greater danger and plans to strictly obey the warning message left on the wall. Back with Acosta, she finally gets tired of being a passive bystander in this godforsaken place. She's done with everything and everyone, so she decides to steal the ambulance, though she can't stop Christy from jumping in with her at the last second. Acosta just wants to make one more desperate attempt to get out of this place once and for all. She's sick of everyone constantly telling her it's impossible and wants to see for herself, regardless of the consequences. At the station, Marilyn arrives visibly shaken to tell them what Acosta did and how she took Christy along in the process. Before Boyd can even react and head out to try and stop her, Acosta speeds through the center of town. This chaos turns into the perfect distraction for Donna to step outside and see what's going on, allowing Ethan to slip out the back door of the house unnoticed. Acosta is absolutely certain that everyone has been lying to her, and she plans to get out of that godforsaken town as soon as possible. However, Christy reassures her that she had those same doubts when she first arrived, and that the only thing she'll achieve now is wasting precious fuel for nothing. At the same time, Sophia finds a pair of glasses that work for her and chats for a bit with Sarah, who hasn't really stopped to consider that all those items kept in storage once belonged to people who were devoured by those creatures. Sophia, driven by a dark curiosity, wants to know a whole lot more. She asks point blank if what happened to the man in the barn is a frequent occurrence, but Sarah admits that ever since Boyd found the talismans, those tragedies happen very rarely. Nonetheless, she confesses that things have been getting pretty unpredictable lately. With every pointed question Sophia asks, she manages to make Sarah increasingly uncomfortable. The young girl displays a truly unsettling fascination with death, especially considering she is supposed to be a priest's daughter. As for Julie, she walks toward the ruins with pure determination. determination, and nothing Randall says can stop her. She doesn't want to hear any talk right now, and is willing to take the risk 100 times over if it gives her even a slight chance to save her father. Julie asks Randall to go in first, but when the guy steps into the ruins, nothing happens, and he starts to think she's actually losing her mind. Still, she makes him promise that he'll leave her in there for as long as it takes until she gives him the signal to pull her out. Just as Julie starts walking toward the ruins, everything around her turns pitch black in an instant. Suddenly, it's night, and the woods are crawling with those demons slowly making their way toward the town. She manages to stay hidden for the time being, but further ahead, she spots the exact moment her father was escaping the ambulance with Boyd on the very day they first arrived in town. Jim and Donna are running through the woods, but when Julie tries to get closer to them, one of those things grabs her from behind and starts to choke the life out of her. Just seconds before the creature can kill her, Randall pulls her out of the ruins, and she snaps back to reality with him. The entire experience is beyond terrifying, and Julie breaks down in tears because she was so close to her father, yet couldn't do a thing to help him. However, despite the trauma of the encounter, she now knows for a fact that it's actually possible to reach him, and that realization changes everything for her moving forward. Unaware of everything happening around her and having no clue about her children's current whereabouts, Tabitha enters the church to see Jim, or at least what's left of him after the brutal attack. She needs to ask him, even in the silence of death, why he didn't come home that night and confess everything she wished she'd said that afternoon in the woods. She wanted to tell him that she still loved him deeply, that all their past fights were meaningless, and how much she'd give for things not to have ended in such a tragic way. With a lump in her throat, she promises him she will do whatever it takes to make sure their kids are okay, and finally says goodbye with a bitter kiss. After several failed attempts, Acosta finally realizes there is no apparent way out of this cursed town. However, she keeps flooring it, pushing the speed higher and putting Christie's life and everyone else's in extreme danger. If she loses control of the vehicle, she won't just destroy one of the community's most valuable assets. She'll kill herself in the process. It's the critical moment to stop her. Back at the barn, Victor's father comes across the sinister message on the wall and finds his son sitting on the floor, terrified and erratic, repeating over and over again that he never should have come back to this place. His father urgently asks him to go visit Ethan. He knows the boy is his friend and needs him desperately during this dark time, but Victor flat out refuses and continues rocking back and forth on the floor. He incessantly repeats that those entities always take away everything that is good and that none of them belong there. Victor is terrified that those things will eventually take his father too, insisting that he never should have come to this cursed place. However, his father tries to soothe him, saying that the only thing that matters now is that they are finally back together. He doesn't care about what's written on the walls or the threats from the woods, as he is genuinely happy to be with his son, no matter what happens next. When Tabitha returns home, she discovers to her horror that neither of her children is there, which only sends her panic skyrocketing. At the same time, Boyd sets up an ambush to stop Acosta, placing a spike strip across the main road. He knows they have spare tires in storage, so if the plan works, they can fix it later. The real problem is that Acosta is driving way too fast, and the impact could seriously injure them both. In the driver's seat, Acosta confesses to Christie that her mother always talked to her about hell, but she believes that place only exists for people who deserve to suffer for their sins, and she claims she has never done anything wrong in her life. She joined the police force to help people and feels she doesn't deserve to be trapped in this place. Therefore, she's convinced that if she tries hard enough, the town will eventually let her go. However, Christie calmly assures her that not everyone there is a convict. There are plenty of good people who don't deserve to suffer either, and since they don't know what might happen, their only choice is to lean on one another. Acosta insists the real reason they don't try to escape is that they've convinced themselves they deserve to be in this hell, but she doesn't share that guilt and doesn't plan on stopping until she manages to escape this godforsaken place. Christie fires back with a hard truth. Every time they follow the crazy theories of someone who spent too much time alone, someone dies, and right now, she's acting exactly like one of them. She reminds her that they have no reason to lie or tell her she belongs in hell, but she is carrying medicine and vital supplies that the town desperately needs, which she's willing to ruin just to quiet her own mind. As Acosta loses her patience and keeps speeding dangerously, the scene shifts to Ethan, who is walking along the edge of the road, heading away from town. When Christie spots him, she screams at Acosta to stop immediately. She's already had her shot at leaving, but now there's a kid whose father just died out in the middle of the woods, and they need to help him right now. Right at that moment, they hit the trap set by Boyd, and although Acosta tries desperately to swerve, Christy reaches out, grabs the steering wheel firmly, and keeps it on course. She manages to shred the tires and bring the vehicle to a dead stop in the middle of the road. Immediately, Boyd drags Acosta out of the ambulance and strips away all the privileges he had previously granted her. He slaps the cuffs on her and demands a real explanation for what she just did. During the nasty accident, Christy twists her ankle, but as soon as she catches her breath, she warns them that they spotted Ethan walking all alone by the side of the road. By that time, the boy has already made it to the overturned RV in the middle of the woods. He grabs a few things and suddenly runs into his father, who is sitting by a tree right outside. Jim asks him what the hell he's doing out there alone, and Ethan explains that he came for the radio to try and call for help so they could find him. He just didn't want him to be out there by himself in the dark. His father tells him he shouldn't be in the woods, especially with nightfall so close. He asks him to be brave, but also wise. He warns him that what he's doing is a bad idea and that he needs to think about his mother and sister first. He must always look out for others and do the best he can to keep them safe. They need that from him right now more than ever. The tantrums and the anger won't last forever, but he has a duty to be brave for them. Jim deeply regrets that he can't stay with his son, but he tells him it is finally time for them to say their last goodbyes. At that moment, Jim seems to hear someone approaching their location and asks Ethan to do something incredibly important. He confesses that the night they first arrived in this place, he had a vivid dream inside the RV about a lake of tears. He assures him that this mystical place actually exists somewhere in this realm, and he needs Ethan to find it no matter what. A few seconds later, Tabitha appears on the scene, and his father's image vanishes completely. This private moment was just for the two of them, and now it's over. Ethan tells his mother that he saw his father and was able to talk to him, and then he sincerely apologizes for the cruel things he said to her earlier. This gives us the bitter ending of this episode, with the definitive death of a father and the heavy burden of fate falling squarely on his young son's shoulders. Now, we'll have to wait a week to find out anything about the mysterious Lake of Tears and whether Tabitha is willing to risk her children's safety for a remote chance to get everyone out of town and end the cursed pact the settlers made so many years ago. The third episode of Season 4 is finally here, and it kicks off with a haunting flashback. The sheer shock the children experienced upon discovering their father's corpse is a moment worth revisiting, especially since it arrived with a heavy price tag. Knowledge comes with a cost. Yet, that day wasn't entirely defined by horror. Ethan had the chance to say his final goodbye, and he now carries a brand new mission to find the Lake of Tears. Meanwhile, his sister is doing everything in her power to harness her unique ability and bring him back. We don't actually know if such a feat is possible, but who are we to crush her remaining hopes? On that particular night, Elgin sat alone in the kitchen, brooding over his recent choices, when Fatima walked in to grab a bite to eat. This marked their very first encounter since everything went down, and the vibe couldn't have been more awkward. Elgin admitted that Boyd threatened to throw him in the box if anyone found out the truth about what happened. He pleaded with her to make sure they both stuck to the exact same story when talking to the others. It was then that Fatima confessed she was trying her best not to hate him, acknowledging they were both manipulated by those things, but she made it clear she needed his help and he won't be able to say no. Back at home, Boyd has a nightmare about what happened so long ago when he was forced to kill his wife as she lost her mind regarding what was happening there. The next morning, he confronts someone who is going through the exact same thing. Acosta put the lives of many people at risk by stealing the ambulance, and having ignored Ethan in the middle of the road is something no human being would do, so he better come to his senses or he won't make it out of there. She admits she may have crossed a line by doing what she did, but cannot accept that there is no way out of this place. She begs him for a bullet. She only needs one, which she will use on herself so she will not have to deal with this anymore. While Boyd contemplates if giving her a bullet is sensible, the rest gathers with Sophia to prepare her father's body for the burial. They have all come together to support her, and it is macabre how they ignore the fact that she is evil incarnate. Sophia asks for a moment alone, then uncovers her father's corpse, and using only her bare fingers, pulls out one of his teeth, a tiny souvenir for a collection that will soon grow much larger. As for Jade, he's spent the last few hours staring at the wall of clues, but he just can't seem to connect the missing pieces. This is definitely bad news for Boyd, who was really counting on him to have discovered something that could help them out with the whole situation regarding the children. The suspense is killing him. He knows he has all the information locked inside his head, but he just can't bring it to the surface. He eventually asks Boyd if he's got any acid. You know, LSD, the kind of stuff that makes you fly. He's certain that if he takes a trip into his own subconscious, he'll be able to pull something useful out of there. Apparently, it's happened to other people there before. According to Henry, Miranda started seeing things about this place after tripping on that stuff, so it's the best lead he's got right now. If he can't reach the depths of his subconscious on his own, he'll let the acid bring the answers to him. Boyd doesn't have what he's looking for and doesn't think it's a great idea for Jade to turn his brain into mush with drugs, especially since the key to escaping that place might be buried in there. He tells him to just take some more time. Eventually, the answer will just pop up, sort of like when you forget where you put your keys. That's when Boyd tells him to get his shoes on because they have to head to the funeral, but Jade isn't having it. He knows Tabitha doesn't want him there, and he doesn't want to give her a reason to be upset, so he decides to stay behind and meditate instead, hoping it might actually help. However, Boyd reminds him that the message on the wall wasn't just a friendly warning. He suggests that if Jade does uncover something big, he should keep it to himself because there's no telling how much that information might cost him in the end. Outside, the townspeople have gathered to say their final goodbyes to Jim and Sophia's father, but Ethan is struggling with the weight of it all, refusing to let go of his mother's hand for even a second. Seeing his dad there, in a hole in the ground, is brutal, but he knows he has to be brave to pull off the mission his father gave him. Just as Boyd starts his eulogy, a crow lands right in front of him, and its screech terrifies everyone. It only gets worse when dozens more follow suit, perching incredibly close to the crowd and staring them down with piercing eyes. That turns the funeral into an even more unsettling ordeal, leaving everyone itching to get out of there as fast as possible. A bit later, Tabitha is with her family at the diner when they realize Sophia has been sitting there for a while without saying a single word. The young woman seems shaken, but none of them are in the mood for small talk right now. A few seconds later, Victor shows up with a drawing of Ethan's family for him, but the boy seems to have grown up a bit, and it doesn't really catch his eye anymore. Right after that, Ethan heads off toward the ant colony, and Victor decides to tag along. Tabitha begs him to look out for her son, and he promises he'll do whatever it takes to keep him safe. At another table, Kenny brings Sophia something to drink, and she asks him if the thing with the crows had ever happened before, or if all these horrible things started going down only after Boyd started digging where he shouldn't have. Just then, Boyd shows up to take Kenny away, and Julie walks over to offer Sophia her condolences. However, Sophia tells her that by her logic, the bad stuff started happening exactly when Julie and her family arrived here, so she shouldn't expect them to be friends. Julie doesn't take the comment well and makes a scene in the diner, but even though Sophia was incredibly rude, the dates actually line up, and that could mean something. Tabitha knows it. She's aware of her past of reincarnations and remembers that Jade arrived at the same time. It could definitely be a sign, but she isn't ready to tell her daughter about it, at least not for now. Watching Julie fight with her mother gives Sophia a sense of extreme satisfaction. She's becoming a better actress every day, hiding her true intentions behind a mask. Meanwhile, Ellis tries to reach out to Fatima, but she's completely focused on processing what happened to her, and talking about feelings is the last thing on her mind right now. Suddenly, Ellis gets an idea and tells her to wait for him right there. At that very moment, Elgin shows up with a cooler, and Fatima gives him a nod to go ahead with the plan. At the same time, Victor is doing his best to support Ethan, but the boy only has one goal: to ask about the lakes in this place and beg Victor to take him there. However, Victor flat out refuses to go. That place is way too terrifying, and he claims there's something wrong with the water. Unfortunately for him, he already told Ethan where to find it, and the kid has no intention of stopping. Since Victor promised Tabitha he'd keep him safe, he has no choice but to tag along. That's when they strike a deal. Victor wants to know the real reason why he's so set on going there, and the boy tells him that as soon as they reach the lake, he'll explain everything and they can solve the mystery together. Back home, Tabitha returns alone. Ethan is still with his friend, and Julie went for a walk to clear her head. However, when she tries to tuck Victor's drawing into a drawer, she discovers another one that looks just like the lighthouse she saw before. Finding it, she tries to decode exactly what her mind has been showing her lately. As for Julie, she shows up at Randall's barn to grab some supplies for another trip to the ruins, or at least that's what he thinks. But the truth is different. Julie needs something from her old house, the one that collapsed and is now even more dangerous than than before. Randall tries to warn her that the house is basically a coffin waiting for a guest, and that one wrong move will leave her buried alive. Julie then confesses that Ethan got all his ideas about the walkers from some books left inside that house. She needs to get them back to figure out if there's a way to control her power and use it to travel to the exact point in history she wants to reach. Back with Boyd, he returns to Acosta and offers her the bullet she asked for, but on one condition: she has to do something for him first. Meanwhile, when the boys arrive at the lake, they find Jade floating naked, trying to think in the silence. He's getting desperate to fill in the blanks in the story and is willing to do whatever it takes. Ethan asks him if he's okay, and after confirming he is, he tells Victor it's time to go. However, Victor reminds him that they had a deal. They're at the lake now, and Ethan has to come clean about this mission he keeps mentioning. The boy gives in and reveals what his father told him about the Lake of Tears and its magical powers. It's a final task from his dad, and he's not about to let him down. Jade overhears the whole thing and tells them to hold on, wanting to hear more about this so-called something of tears. Back with Julie, Randall is trying to talk her out of it, telling her it's way too dangerous and she should ditch the plan, but she keeps walking toward the house, or rather, the pile of rubble it's turned into. Standing before the ruins, she remembers the last sweet conversation she had with her father. Seeing her break down in tears, Randall decides he'll be the one to go down and find the books. After all, she's in no state to do it, and he knows his way around tight spots. Randall manages to convince her, but before they can make a move on the house, we cut to Kenny, who is chewing Sophia out for what she said. She stands her ground, using the Bible to argue that if someone offended those things, and all the deaths started the moment they arrived, then there's a clear connection everyone else is just choosing to ignore. Kenny tells her that, after everything they've been through, comments like that can make people lose their faith, which happens way too often. He warns her it would be best to keep those thoughts to herself, or she might end up being hated by everyone in town. Once that's settled, Kenny asks her if she'd like to move into the colony house. He figures she'd be better off with people her own age, but Sophia admits she isn't exactly the social type. Instead, she asks him where Sarah lives, mentioning that Sarah was very kind and she'd like for them to be friends. Kenny is floored by this. Nobody wants to live with Sarah, especially after everything she's done, but Sophia seems dead set on getting to know her better. Back with Randall, he's managed to squeeze into the rubble of the collapsed house. He carefully navigates the cramped remaining space, searching for the blue bag filled with the books Julie is so desperate to find. However, the place is falling apart by the second, and staying in there any longer is a terrible idea that's just asking for trouble. Acosta is with Boyd. He takes her to one of the storage rooms where they keep the belongings of those who are no longer alive. Once there, he asks her to look at the place like a crime scene and use everything she learned at the academy to help him crack a mystery. But before doing any of that, Acosta demands the whole truth, no more lies. She tells him that if he wants her help, he's going to have to trust her. Boyd, however, makes it clear that isn't up for debate. She's going to do this for him, using her expertise to figure out what this place is hiding. And if she still wants that bullet after the job is done, he'll give it to her without a second thought. That's a promise. Over at the colony house, Tabitha shows up to talk to Donna, but finds her room empty. Instead, she leaves the drawing of the lighthouse and her notes behind, hoping Donna can look them over and help her figure out what all of this means. Just as she's headed out, she runs into Victor's father. He offers his support, telling her he's there if she needs to talk or anything else. He remembers she did the same for him back in the real world and feels like it's a debt that hasn't been settled yet. The old man confesses that he spent 40 years in loneliness and sorrow until the very moment she knocked on his door. Because of that, he tells her she can ask him for anything she needs without hesitation. Tabitha tells him she's fine and doesn't need a thing right now, but Henry is so persistent that she finally tells him the truth. She wants to find the lighthouse. She's convinced that if she managed to get out of that place once, there's nothing stopping her from doing it again. And once she finds it, she's taking her kids with her. She isn't willing to keep waiting for everyone else to solve the hundreds of riddles that only lead to death. If she can find the lake, she's getting out of there with her children. She feels bad about leaving everyone else behind, but they'll just have to find their own way out. Henry reminds her about what happened to Dale. In case anyone forgot, he's the guy who got trapped in the middle of the pool's concrete and died a absolutely gruesome death. But Tabitha knows she has something the others don't, a long history of rebirths in that place. She's betting that the portal only works for them and hopes that since her kids share her blood, it'll work for them too. Henry begs her to be a little more level-headed, warning her that she could end up killing herself and taking her kids down with her. But Tabitha isn't in the mood for advice right now. She tells him to stay out of it and let her take her shot, because she is absolutely not willing to bury her children in this godforsaken place. First, they have to find the bottle tree, and Henry volunteers for the mission. He also wants to see the place his wife chased for so many years, the one that ultimately cost her life. Tabitha accepts his help, mostly to keep him from running around and telling everyone about her plans to leave them behind. A few minutes later, Tabitha leads him to the tree, and Henry can't believe he's standing right in the spot his late wife searched for so long. It looks exactly like the one back home, but it has that hole that could either set them free or kill them. Tabitha walks toward the opening, but Henry stops her. That's when Tabitha confesses that she left a goodbye note for her kids in Donna's room and screams at him to move out of the way. However, the old man steps between her and the tree, Barfwicki, repeating over and over again that her children need her. Right at that moment, the boy in white appears before them. Tabitha asks him if the tree will take her back to the lighthouse, but he tells her no. That was an option before, but she wasted that chance. He warns her that she's very close to uncovering the truth, but she's running out of time. And before she can press him with more questions, the boy vanishes into thin air. Meanwhile, Ellis has come up with the perfect plan to give Fatima a distraction and let out all that pent-up rage that's been keeping her in a bad mood lately. He takes her out to the woods, where he's set up several old cars and a baseball bat so she can blow off some steam just like in a rage room. Fatima isn't exactly on board with the idea at first, but Ellis reminds her that after his mother died, she was the one who pulled him out of the emotional hole he was in. She barely knew him back then, yet she never left his side for a second. And now he's hoping to do the same for her. He asks her to just be patient and shows her the different ways she can do this. Finally, Fatima makes her choice and picks up the baseball bat. Now it's time to find a target, and after taking a swing at a car, she feels better right away. A feeling that only gets better after she smashes one of the windows. With every furious swing of the bat Fatima unleashes on the cars, she feels a huge weight lifting, and the therapy seems to be doing the trick. Back in the woods, Jade is tagging along with the kids, grilling them for details about this supposed lake and making them swear they aren't just making it up. Ethan tells him it's all true. He actually saw his father, and he was the one who told him about the lake. He knows it's real because the same thing happened with the red rocks his mother saw in her dreams. Those turned out to be the real deal, and he knows his dad wouldn't lie to him. Ethan asks Jade what he was doing out there in the lake, and Jade admits he was trying to think things through. He explains that floating in the water is an old meditation technique, but it seems like no matter what he does, he just can't get what he needs. He needs to remember something crucial and is trying everything in his power to make it happen. While they're talking, Victor drifts away from the group and spots something that has turned up on the side of the road. In a hole next to a rock lies the yellow suit that causes him so much terror, hidden away from sight. But the closer he gets, the more consumed by fear he becomes, eventually freezing in place until the others notice. Jade stares at the suit, and when he looks over at Victor, he sees that Victor has actually peed his pants out of sheer habit. A few seconds later, a murder of crows appears, using their piercing shrieks to drive them away. Victor snaps out of it and bolts toward the town, where Randall is still scavenging through the ruins of the house, though he hasn't found the books yet. What he does find is a corpse covered by a wooden board. Right then, he finally spots the blue bag containing the books, but it's tucked into a corner that is incredibly dangerous. Moving toward it could easily cost him his life. Meanwhile, Kenny takes Sophia to Sarah's house so she can ask for permission to move in. Sophia knows that no one will interfere with her plans as long as she's there. She intends to use the town's fear of Sarah to mask her own macabre activities. Randall manages to grab the bag, but the tight crawl space he has to navigate is uncomfortably close to the body he just found. When a rat suddenly scurries out of the corpse's mouth, he gets the absolute fright of his life. Back with Fatima, she thanks Ellis for his help with a kiss and tells him she needs to take a nap after everything. She didn't expect it, but it actually worked, and she's feeling a bit better. Once inside the house, Fatima makes sure no one is following her and goes straight to Elgin's room. The guy has a huge pile of sand in there, but Fatima tells him they're going to need more, so his end of the deal isn't over yet. Right then, Tabitha hears her son calling out for Victor, and they manage to find him lying in the woods, repeating over and over that he shouldn't be real. At that moment, Jade looks down down and finds some mushrooms he recognizes immediately. He's used them before and thinks they might be the window to finally unlocking the part of his brain that's withholding what he needs. Meanwhile, Boyd has decided to visit his wife's grave. He talks to her memory for a few seconds until something unexpected happens. Her hand bursts out of the ground and grabs him by the arm, pulling him down with incredible strength. Before long, Boyd's entire arm is underground, but when he finally managed to break free, the hole has vanished and his shirt is perfectly clean. The episode leaves us on a major cliffhanger with more to uncover, but for that, you'll have to wait until next week. See ya. The fourth chapter kicks off with high-stakes suspense. The group has secured the yellow suit at the police station, where Henry shares a chilling revelation. His late wife, Miranda, used to paint horrific images of a figure wearing a suit nearly identical to this one. Now, he desperately needs to know if they are all talking about the same person from her nightmares. Jade is already convinced of the danger. She watched a grown man wet his pants just from seeing that suit lying on the floor. If that kind of raw terror isn't enough to worry them, she doesn't know what is. Meanwhile, Boyd is holding out hope that the suit's owner is long dead and no longer a threat to the community. However, we know better. He couldn't be more wrong about the safety of their situation. Boyd's immediate plan is to interrogate Victor to see what he knows about the garment, but Henry shuts him down. He insists on speaking to his son alone, refusing to let them shatter the foundation of trust he has built or scare the boy with their conspiracies. Before leaving, Henry reminds Tabitha that she has plenty to live for, stressing the absolute urgency of solving these mysteries and finding out why the boy in white warned them that time is running out. As soon as Henry leaves, Donna asks point-blank if they've told him about his wife yet, and if he knows that Tabitha has actually been here before in past lives. Tabitha, however, isn't ready to wrap her head around that fact just yet, even though Jade keeps breathing down her neck about it being the truth. Touching on that subject, Boyd makes it crystal clear that until they confirm this is 100% true, they aren't telling a soul. The mere suggestion that they've been trapped in this place for generations could break everyone's morale and trigger a wave of new problems. Right then, Jade offers Tabitha some of the mushrooms he found, causing Donna to finally snap. She thinks the whole plan is a joke, but Boyd is exhausted from waking up to a fresh corpse in town every single morning, so he's willing to let Jade get high as a kite, as long as he delivers real results. However, he insists that Christy stays close by just in case things go south. Meanwhile, Sarah decides to have a heart-to-heart with Sophia. She wants to know why on earth she'd want to live with her after Kenny spilled the beans on everything she's done. It's something Sarah just can't wrap her mind around. Sophia tells her that she doesn't judge her for what she's done in the past, believing that everyone deserves a second chance as long as they have a kind heart. She claims that when they first met, she could sense Sarah's goodness. Plus, she adds casually that she was certain she'd get her own room there. Sarah walks away with a smile, feeling like they're finally becoming real friends. However, just seconds later, Sophia starts chanting in a strange, eerie language that hits Sarah with a splitting headache. Right after this bizarre moment, Sophia heads downstairs, instantly switching back to her act as the worried, giving friend. Over at the police station, Tabitha asks Boyd to give her some privacy with Jade. She wants to know exactly why he was out in the middle of the woods with her son. Since Jade doesn't want to keep adding fuel to the fire, he decides to be straight with her. He explains that the kid saw his father in the forest, and the man told him to find the Lake of Tears. Tabitha insists that the lake isn't real, but Jade warns her that her son is fully convinced it is. He explains that the boy feels like he's on a mission from his father, and the best thing she can do is have his back rather than trying to stop him, or she'll start losing him for good. She finally takes his advice to heart and offers a sincere apology for the terrible things she said to him back at the barn. As soon as she heads out, Jade gets ready to eat the mushrooms, fully prepared to let an astral trip reveal whatever secrets are buried deep in his subconscious. When Boyd asks if he's actually sure about doing this, Jade flatly says no and stuffs 2 of them into his mouth anyway. At that point, the focus shifts to Ethan, who is struggling with the old radio in the RV, trying to get a signal to reach his father, though it doesn't seem to be working. His mother shows up then, but this time she's being much more understanding about his mission to find the Lake of Tears. Instead of just chewing him out and telling him to stay put, Tabitha stays quiet and actually listens to her son. The boy is convinced that the lake is a real place and that he'll find his father there, or at least some way to bring him back home. Meanwhile, over on the bus, Randall and Julie are going through the books they salvaged from the ruined house. They all look like basic kids' books with nothing useful inside, until Randall finds one titled Fred the Story Walker. Seeing the title, Julie suddenly remembers that her brother has been calling her Walker for quite a while now. Before Julie and Randall can really dive into the book, Tabitha shows up and asks her daughter to join her on a little adventure. She explains that Julie's brother saw their father and needs her support right now. However, Julie says she's busy, which causes Tabitha to snap and go off on Randall. She gets right in his face, warning him that she'll make his life a living hell if he even thinks about messing with her daughter. Not far from there, Ellis is saying his goodbyes to Fatima. Today is the day of the supply run, and everyone with the experience and muscle to work is heading out for the day. Just then, Tabitha appears with her son and asks the group for permission to tag along. Donna knows they're dealing with some heavy personal stuff, so she doesn't give them any hard time and welcomes them aboard. After a tender kiss, Fatima says goodbye to Ellis and heads straight up to the attic, where Elgin has already hauled up enough soil for her upcoming experiment. The boy tries to ask if she needs help with anything else, but she tells him he's already done enough and that she has to handle the rest on her own. She then asks him to leave so she can get back to work in private. Outside, Henry finds his son, Victor, meticulously measuring the distance from the trees to the house. When he asks what he's up to, Victor reveals something deeply unsettling. In this place, the trees actually move, and they're getting closer and closer to the house every day. Henry tries to be supportive and helps him with the measurements, hoping to find the right moment to ask about the man in the yellow suit, though he knows getting through to his son will take some time. Inside the house, Kenny notices a leak dripping down from the attic. When he goes up to check it out, he finds a hose hidden in the hallway. Opening the door, he discovers Fatima making a huge mess of mud. She seems to be trying to mold something with her hands, but we still have no clue what it is. At the same time, Boyd can't stop obsessing over what happened at the cemetery. He starts going through his wife's belongings, but he's unable to escape the crushing memory of the moment he had to pull the trigger on her. Shortly after, Kenny shows up and finds Jade completely tripped out in Boyd's chair. He decides to brush it off for the time being so he can fill Boyd in on what's going on with Fatima and her bizarre behavior in the attic. After Elgin drops the buckets off at the barn, he stops by the church and runs into Sarah. Naturally, the moment is incredibly awkward, but he asks her to stay. He doesn't want things to be weird between them and tells her he doesn't hold a grudge for what she did. Sarah asks him if he can still see or hear the woman in the kimono, but he admits that it's over. Ever since Fatima gave birth to that thing, his mind has been dead silent. That's when Sarah confesses that for a long time, she actually thought those things had finally left her alone, but it turns out she was wrong. She's hearing new things now and has no idea what to do about it. She's terrified of hurting someone else, especially since the orders she's getting don't make any sense at all. The voice in her head just wants her to go to the diner, pour herself a glass of water, and take a sip. To Elgin, it doesn't make much sense either, but he figures no one is going to die just because she takes a sip of water. He tells her she should probably just go through with it if it'll give her some peace of mind. Sarah, however, has been overthinking the whole thing for a long time. She's convinced that something might have infected her, and she's terrified that she'll end up passing it on to everyone else, leading to their deaths. That's not even the worst part of what she's been hearing. The orders come with a grim warning and a ticking clock. If she doesn't obey by noon, something terrible will happen to someone close to her, and the cycle will keep repeating until she finally gives in. The pressure is mounting as the deadline approaches. Once Henry finishes helping his son measure the trees, he takes a moment to bring up what happened yesterday. He knows it's important for Victor to open up about what he saw and why it scared him so much. He wants to know what Victor meant when he said he's not supposed to be real, and if the man in the yellow suit ever hurt him. Victor stays silent for a few long seconds, but then he starts walking and tells his father to follow him. He can't put it into words, but he can show him the truth. Back with Fatima, Boyd tries to figure out what she's planning to do with all that mud. She casually tells him she's making a monster, but before Boyd can assume she's losing her mind, she starts talking about her religion and the stories her father used to tell her. Out of all of them, her favorite was the story of the golem, a symbol of hope and ultimate protection. She explains that it's a giant made of earth that fights to defend its creator, and that is exactly what she's building. Kenny is clearly worried, but Boyd tells him that she isn't hurting anyone, so he asks him to leave her be for now. However, Boyd mentions he'll be checking in on her from time to time, since this behavior isn't like the Fatima they all know. Meanwhile, Julie is carefully studying the books and discovers something interesting. The great wizard, Golagog, leaves a mark on the places he wants to visit, which can be an object or a specific phrase. Julie realizes that if she does the same thing and focuses all her energy on that object while moving through the ruins, she might be able to return to that specific point in time. Randall doesn't think it's a good idea for her to keep putting her life on the line in those ruins. He suggests that maybe it's time to accept that her father is gone and just move on, but Julie isn't having it. In her eyes, this whole place is built on the impossible, and she's not about to quit now that she basically has a manual on how to use her powers. She tells him straight up that she's going through with it, whether he helps her or not. Later that day, Randall finds Julie cutting her hair. She hasn't forgotten that the last time, one of those things grabbed her by it, and she's making sure that never happens again. A few minutes later, they're standing in front of the ruins. Julie has already figured out how to set up markers to see if the theory in the book actually holds water. They're on the verge of finding out if saving her father is even possible. Clutching a piece of paper, she steps toward the ruins, praying she won't face something horrific on the other side. Deep in the woods, Donna tries to get Tabitha to open up about why she really joined the run. Tabitha admits she has no clue what she's doing. She feels totally lost, and this is just a desperate cry for help to find a way for her son to process his grief. She has already accepted that her husband is dead, but she's not sure how much hope her children are still clinging to, hoping this place might actually give back something it stole from them. She's simply bracing herself for the moment Ethan realizes the Lake of Tears isn't real, just so she can be there to catch him. She knows that when that happens, the boy is going to collapse like a house of cards and will be forced to face reality. Seeing her tears, Donna calls for the rest of the group to take a break. She pulls Tabitha aside and tells her that no matter how bad things get, she never wants to see another letter like the one left on her nightstand again. Donna points out that it was a suicide note, and she's not about to explain to Tabitha's kids why their mother took her own life trying to escape this purgatory instead of staying there for them. Tabitha apologizes, admitting she wasn't in her right mind, and promises that Donna won't have to worry about anything like that ever again. A few seconds later, Ethan calls out to her. She quickly wipes her eyes to go see what they've found. The boy shows them a bird with a broken wing. Since the only winged creatures they've seen around here are crows, Ethan is convinced it's a sign and insists they should take it with them to help it. Ethan is convinced that once they track down the Lake of Tears, the bird can drink the water and be miraculously healed. To him, that'll be the ultimate proof they've found the right spot. Tabitha just doesn't have the heart to shut him down, so she goes along with it. Back in town, Sophia stands staring at the pool where that guy got fused halfway into the ground after his failed escape attempt. From the diner window, Christy keeps a close eye on her, admitting she doesn't have a solid diagnosis yet. It looks like Sophia is dealing with her grief in total silence, the kind of bottled-up pressure that's bound to explode sooner or later. A moment later, Sarah shows up and spots the pitcher of water on the table. She finally gives in to the voices in her head, takes a sip, and is about to pour the rest back into the pitcher when Bhakta interrupts her. Bhakta greets her with genuine kindness, which is a shock given what everyone else is whispering behind Sarah's back. Bhakta admits she wasn't around when Sarah did those things, but the person she's gotten to know is sweet and deserves a place here. She even invites Sarah to help her get the diner back up and running so they can be useful again. Suddenly struck by guilt, Sarah stops her and begs her to pour the rest of that water straight down the drain. Right then, a piercing scream rings out from the pool. Sophia has fallen in and taken a nasty spill. It looks like she's broken her arm, which turns the vague threats in Sarah's head into a terrifying reality. Sarah starts to spiral, convinced that this happened solely because she refused to obey the voices. Sophia keeps repeating over and over that she felt something push her. Now her arm is snapped, and everyone else is seriously rattled. At that point, Sarah heads back into the diner and does exactly what she was told. She takes a sip of water and pours the rest back into the pitcher. She stands there, staring at the glass for several minutes, praying that nothing horrible follows, or that she hasn't just unleashed some contagious pathogen that will kill everyone in town. Meanwhile, Boyd is starting to think Kenny might be right. The fact that Fatima is building a mud monster isn't the end of the world, but her behavior over the last few days has been incredibly bizarre. He's starting to get a bad feeling about the whole thing, and wishes Ellis were around so he could ask him what the hell has been going on with her lately. For now, Boyd is stuck wondering if he should be stopping her or helping her, but Jade suggests he just give her some space. She's been through hell, especially considering she gave birth to one of those things. You can't really blame her for trying to build something she thinks can protect her. After all, plenty of people here have failed to protect themselves, himself included. Jade tells him that traumatic events can change people for the worse, but sometimes for the better. It gives them a real perspective on where they are and the kind of danger they're up against. Maybe Jade Jade adds, the question isn't why she's building a golem now, but why she didn't start sooner. Back with Donna's group, they finally reach the settlement, where they come across those strange statues that are supposedly there to ward off evil spirits. Donna decides to ignore them and gets straight to work, but Ethan tells his mother they need to split off from the group to find the lake. He's worried that if they don't move fast, the bird is going to die from its injuries before they can get it any help. Right at that moment, we cut back to Julie, who has just popped up in the middle of town. But the scene is a total nightmare. Everyone is dead, torn apart, and devoured by those things, leaving a complete massacre in their wake. Before anything happens to her, she pulls out the scrap of paper and tries to mark it, but stops when she hears the sound of something feasting on a corpse. When she turns around, she sees the old man in the yellow suit enjoying a fresh liver he just ripped out of a human torso. The second he sees her, the old man sprints toward her with a demonic grin. Just a split second before he reaches her, Julie manages to scribble an X on the paper, and Randall pulls her back out of the ruins. After they get her to calm down and catch her breath, they realize the paper in her pocket is blank. The mark isn't there. Her theory was a total bust, and even worse, she just witnessed a vision of exactly how everyone in town is going to end up dead in the most horrific way possible. At the same time, Victor leads his father into the woods, where he digs up a bag and shows him some drawings of the man in yellow he made years ago, finally starting to tell him the story behind them. The man in yellow arrived in a car just like they did. For a while, Victor thought he was a funny guy because of his suit and figured they might even be friends. But that man wasn't like the rest of them. He was strange, and when everyone died overnight, things took a dark turn. When Victor finally found his mother by the bottle tree, the man in yellow was right there, feeding on her. Henry can't believe what he's seeing in his son's drawings, which look innocent at first glance but reveal a deep, haunting trauma. This is the ultimate proof that the man in yellow is a terrifying threat to everyone, and Henry knows he needs to get back and warn them about what's coming. Meanwhile, Christy is treating Sophia's injuries. Her arm is definitely broken, but they have to wait for the swelling to go down before they can reset the bone. Sophia is taking the whole thing with eerie calm. To her, it's just another test from God, and she starts telling them about the story of Abraham. She describes him as a simple man with blind obedience to the Lord, until one day, God decided to put him to the ultimate test. As Sophia tells the story, we see Sarah back at the diner, keeping a hawk-like eye on the pitcher of water to make sure no one takes a drink without her noticing anything weird. According to Sophia, Abraham's faith was so strong that he actually agreed to kill his own son to prove his devotion. However, right before he went through with it, God stepped in and told him to sacrifice a goat instead. At that exact second, we see Bhakta pick up the pitcher and pour every last drop of water down the kitchen sink. The point of the story is that God never actually wanted Abraham's son to die. He just wanted to see if Abraham was capable of doing it. You can see the pure terror in Sarah's eyes as she realizes the weight of the lesson she just learned, while Sophia's face lights up with the satisfaction of knowing she's got her right where she wants her. The chapter wraps up with Tabitha taking Ethan to the lake, where they bathe the bird's wing in the water, hoping for a miracle. Just as they do, Roger finds a rope buried in the ground and starts pulling it, triggering something in the lake that no one has ever seen before. A mystery that's going to keep us waiting for another week. The fifth chapter of From is finally here. It has been 7 days of suspense and intrigue, waiting to find out what exactly emerged from the waters of the Lake of Tears, and that moment has arrived. At first, it just looks like a bunch of tangled seaweed, but from the shore, Donna can tell that the mass is shaped like bodies, perhaps an underwater grave. She feels they shouldn't pull them onto the shore, with the boy standing right there, so Tabitha will have to take him away so the others can investigate further. Although some disagree with pulling that thing in, they will have to spend the night out there. They wouldn't make it back to town at this late hour of the afternoon, even if they ran. That is why they decide to drag the object to the shore and clear up their doubts once and for all. While this is happening, Tabitha and her son are giving a proper funeral to the bird he thought would come back to life with the lake water, but it died anyway. At least Tabitha feels this has brought her a little closer to her son. Back at the station, Jade calls Boyd to tell him the mushrooms finally seem to be working. At first, he sees the town sign completely lit up, but then a swarm of super disgusting spiders starts appearing everywhere, and he panics. At that moment, Jade tells him the effects are getting worse, so he needs his help to be his anchor and tell him what is real and what isn't. He also tells him that the password is Capricorn. If at any point he feels things are getting out of hand, he will say the word, and Boyd will have to restrain him. While they are doing that, Christy is resetting Sophia's bone, but they need some plaster or a splint, so her girlfriend offers to check the ambulance for her. However, as she opens the cabinets, something strange happens to her. A chain appears out of nowhere and grabs her by the wrists. And what's even worse, through the radio, she can hear many screams of people suffering, as if for a couple of seconds she had heard hell itself, filled with souls in perpetual punishment. Back with Donna, they manage to remove all the seaweed and discover that they are not bodies, but giant rag dolls tied next to one another, looking like a creepy family that drowned together. Determined not to encounter any more surprises, Donna drives her knife into the doll's chest and checks that they only have cloth inside. Seeing that they do, they are just simple dolls and nothing more. But Ethan has a theory. They are scarecrows. The function of one of those dolls is quite simple. You put them in a field to scare off the birds, but if you put them in the lake, it's to keep something inside of it. Therefore, by removing them, they may have unleashed another evil for which they are completely unprepared. Back with Jade, the mushrooms have kicked in, and he has begun to feel very dizzy, which is accompanied by vomiting and the onset of hallucinations. Because of this, he tries to ask his subconscious to show him what he has forgotten, and a second later, music can be heard coming from the woods. Boyd cannot hear or see anything, but he will have to believe that Jade can, and follow him in the hope that they find something useful or that his mind unlocks an important memory. A few seconds later, Jade begins to see other things. The skull guy and a 12-year-old version of himself both repeat the word remember to also him in that strange language from before and ask him to drink blood from a skull. Boyd tells him to do it. It's not real blood, it's a hallucination, and it might unlock something else, but his 12-year-old self begs him not to drink. In the end, Boyd wins, and Jade drinks the fake blood, which is filled with those disgusting spiders from earlier. Once he does, his 12-year-old self tells him that he shouldn't have done it. Now he will see things he doesn't want to, and everything will be much worse. His mind is not a shelf to pick and choose from. Now everything will come flooding in all at once. While that is happening, Kenny tries to apologize to Fatima for giving her away, instead of being more understanding, and she tells him that it has been hard. She feels connected to that thing, and knows that one day she will look out the window and see it there, staring back at her, and she doesn't know what to do about it. When Christy finds her girlfriend, she is crying on the floor of the ambulance, but refuses to tell her what happened, no matter how many times she asks. On the other hand, Donna proposes stuffing the dolls with rocks and throwing them back into the lake before they wake up something that has been asleep. Once the dolls are filled with rocks, the group pushes them back into the lake, but they sink, no matter how far they push them from the shore, so it might be too late to fix what they did. Back with Jade, he tries to ask his childhood self for explanations, but he disappears, and so does Boyd. But the music comes back, and he runs toward a clearing, where the boy is playing the violin again, and Jade can see everyone who died in the town playing the exact same instrument. The boy tells him that the truths he wants will come wrapped in painful segments. Inside the house, Victor finds his father completely drunk and staring at the drawing where it can clearly be seen that the man in the yellow suit ate his wife. This has been deeply traumatizing him for hours, and he doesn't seem to be thinking very clearly. Victor tries to go after his father, but Henry walks away, telling him that he's fine and just wants to have a little fun. He's tired of sitting around all day doing absolutely nothing. For now, Victor can only follow him to make sure he doesn't get hurt and to be the responsible one for once. The next thing Henry does is make everyone else in the room uncomfortable. He has turned into the annoying drunk who bothers everybody, and Victor is just trying to get him to behave and not cause any more trouble, but Henry completely ignores him. Right after that, he sits down at the piano and starts playing the song he danced to with his wife at their wedding. For everyone else, it's a bit of an awkward moment, but Henry is letting all that pain out at once. It's not every day you find out your wife was eaten by a cannibalistic lunatic. Kenny shows up a few seconds later to offer his support, but Henry gets violent and they have to restrain him, while he screams at his son, ordering him to show everyone what that bastard did. He has to show everyone the truth so it doesn't happen to anyone else. As for Ethan, he still has questions that haven't hasn't been answered and talks to Donna a bit about what the Lake of Tears might actually be, but she doesn't have any useful information. What she does tell him, though, is that he needs to be brave for his mother. First thing in the morning, they will grab their things and get the hell out of there for a long while so he can see his sister and be safe at home. Ethan confesses to her that he likes it when she's around. Things just aren't as terrifying when they are together. On the other hand, Julie and Randall are arguing in the main hall about what could have happened to her if he hadn't pulled her out in time. He's tired of watching her risk her life on plans that don't work. Their conversation is being overheard by Sophia, or rather, the man in the yellow suit, who is spying on them from the other room and discovers they are messing with something that could be a nuisance to him. Randall tells her bluntly that her father is dead and that killing herself won't bring him back. He has no intention of continuing to help her with her adventures, and the next time she tries to cross those ruins, he won't be there to pull her out. She's had 2 seizures in 2 days. She's frying her brain, chasing something impossible, and enough is enough. If her father were here, he'd tell her the same thing. She's being a complete idiot, and the only reason she reacts with anger is because she knows he's right. With no response to give, Julie just stares at him with disdain, while on the other side of the door, Sophia slips away, knowing a bit more, her slight smile revealing that she has something prepared for them. A few minutes later, Sophia returns with some clean clothes and overhears another argument. Marielle refuses to tell Christy what she saw in the ambulance. She doesn't want to scare her with something that might be nothing, but Christy reminds her that when someone in town has these visions, it isn't long before another person ends up dead. Therefore, she must be honest and say what happened. 2 seconds later, Marielle tells her to leave her alone for a minute and starts to head out of the room. There, she runs into Sophia, who grabs her by the arm. In that instant, something slams her against the wall, and the chains return along with the screams. But this time, Marielle sees herself trapped in a cave filled with fire, and her eyes witness something truly horrifying. Standing before her, Sophia and Christy can only watch as she screams uncontrollably in a sort of senseless seizure, but she is living through a literal hell at that exact moment. Only when Christy grabs her by the arm does she finally snap back to reality, while Sophia remains motionless, taking in the spectacle and enjoying every second of it. Back with Jade, the dead people who were playing music outside the colonial house have finally stopped. And that's when things begin to make a little sense. All those people are him. They are his past life reincarnations. They were the lives he had in this cursed place. The boy asks him to look at them closely so he can discover the truth he is looking for. The first one at the bottom of the stairs was crushed by a giant boulder, and next to him is one whose throat was slit. However, at the end of the line, there is a Confederate soldier, and after checking them all, Jade realizes that none of them died from the woods creatures. All of their deaths were caused by something else, or someone within the community. All of his past reincarnations were murdered by the townspeople. His younger self tells him that once they find out the truth, first they blame him, then they hate him, and in the end, they lynch him. He always dies at the hands of the very people he is trying to protect and help. Before leaving, the boy confesses to him that a much worse fate awaits Tabitha, but Jade wants to know how to prevent that from happening. That is the question he has been asking since the beginning. How to save the people from this place, but the boy gives him no answer to that. In the colonial house, Kenny and Victor manage to get the old drunk up to his room so he can sleep it off for a while. After putting him to bed, Kenny asks Victor directly what his father was talking about, and Victor hands him the drawing his father has been obsessed with for the past few days. Upon seeing it, Kenny is stunned. Hearing Victor narrate the moment the man in the yellow suit was eating his mother is extremely traumatic, and the young man doesn't know what to do with all that information for the time being. It makes sense why Henry wanted to get wasted and forget everything. Meanwhile, Jade enters the colonial house with Boyd, following the boy, who leads them toward the basement. At first, the place seems empty. Boyd tries to ask him to calm down for a second and explain what the hell he saw out there, and Jade starts saying that they killed him. Who killed him? Why did they do it? Does it have anything to do with the creatures of the night? Boyd is clueless and tired of waiting for him to stop for a minute and explain everything. However, there is no time for that. The boy appears once again and asks Jade to follow him, leading him to another part of the basement. Standing in front of a mountain of trash and old things, the boy asks Jade to clear the path to see the truth, and they end up discovering a door that wasn't there before. Worst of all, Boyd is seeing it too, meaning the mushrooms are working, and as crazy as it seems, they have to see this through to the end. While the team clears everything out of the way to open the door, Christy finally manages to convince her girlfriend to tell them what's going on. She starts by saying that in the ambulance, she felt herself being tied down while the radio blasted the screams of people suffering. She doesn't know know who they were, but they were suffering terribly, and the screams were of pure agony. Additionally, she could feel an intense heat on her skin, and the chains on her wrists kept her from doing anything. She believes it was the people who have died in the town, but she isn't sure about that. She doesn't know how to explain it, but it was as if her body were being pierced by the screams she heard. At a moment when she couldn't possibly feel more fragile and afraid, Sophia interrupts to tell her that she is a prophet. God has chosen her to be a channel for those suffering people and to be the one who can set them free. But Marielle isn't someone who buys into all that religious garbage, so she walks away to deal with it on her own. At that moment, Christy begs her not to do it. She shouldn't isolate herself because that will only make everything worse. She has seen it before. Good people whose minds were manipulated by those things out there and ended up dead. So she pleads with her to stay and let them help her figure this out together. Marielle tells her that there is something old in this place, something ancient that is mocking them. If those screams are real, then it means that even after dying in this God-forsaken town, their souls, or whatever is left behind, will remain trapped there, and that is fucking terrifying. Back with the group, Donna and the others watch Ethan sleeping peacefully until one of the men reminds them of what happened at the lake, ruining the quiet moment they were sharing. Donna tells him to shut up. Scaring the kid won't make his own fear go away. She tells him to sit down and wait for sunrise, just like everyone else is trying to do. Once the sun comes up, they can grab their stuff and get out of there, heading back to the nightmare they already know without having to worry again about what went down at the lake. That's settled now. They put the dolls back and nothing bad happened, so they should get some sleep to have enough energy for the trek back. But just as Donna had managed to calm everyone down, a melodic tune could be heard from outside. It sounded like angels themselves were singing, and everyone can hear it clearly. Tabitha, in particular, seems to recognize the sound perfectly, and her eyes immediately fill with tears. She tells them that she has finally remembered. She knew she had seen those dolls before. They were hers. She played with them every day in one of her past lives, and the melody they hear was a song her mother taught her, until a man appeared and snatched them away. He told her those ugly dolls gave him nightmares and threw them into the lake. But after a while, the man died in his sleep, and his nightmares, the ones he claimed were caused by the dolls, crawled out of the lake like a cloud of pure evil over all of them. The next thing Donna tells her is that they have to get out of there immediately, but they are in the middle of the woods in the dead of night. Those things could be right outside the door, and they can't take that risk right now. The terror in Tabitha's eyes is almost palpable. She tells them they need to run, but Donna reminds her that sunrise is close, and they have a talisman. However, what Tabitha says next makes everyone's skin crawl. These things, the nightmares from the lake, are not afraid of talismans. 2 seconds later, the entire wall of the cabin collapses from a massive blow delivered by one of those creatures, and standing before them is a giant rag doll with overwhelming strength. It's time to run. The doll grabs one of the people, and the stitches on its face rip open to reveal a black mouth filled with teeth. Ellis tries to help him, but the thing is far too strong and hurls him against the wall as if he weighed nothing. Then, the doll shoves its fist down the man's throat and rips out his entire jaw, as if it were trying to find something specific inside his stomach that it wants to eat. Ellis finds Donna and the rest hiding nearby, but Fatima went in another direction and is crouching behind a tree, hoping nothing followed her. But that isn't entirely true. The other doll appears and grabs her from her blind spot. Fatima's piercing scream lets everyone know that there is no longer any hope for her. The doll drags Fatima over to the campfire and shoves her face onto the burning embers for a few seconds. Luckily, Ellis shows up and smashes it with a log, managing to break her free and leaving the doll engulfed in flames behind them. As for Donna, she and Tabitha are trying to keep Ethan quiet when she seems to remember something else that could be important about the totems surrounding them. But right at that moment, the last doll appears and grabs the woman by the throat. Just seconds away from Donna being killed, Tabitha lifts one of the totems and discovers that its base is sharpened, so she uses it to stab the cursed doll, managing to shut it down for the time being. The rest watch the doll crash to the ground and stop moving, and Tabitha reveals to them that she has remembered how to hurt them. At that moment, the doll that was on flames and had been chasing Ellis turns around and retreats. It knows that if it attacks them, they can use another totem to do the exact same thing to it, so it decides to live to fight another day. Right then, we cut back to Jade. They have finally managed to clear the path blocking the door and are about to open it, but before they do, he asks Boyd to remember the password in case something goes wrong. As soon as Jade pushes the door open, it reveals a massive, well-lit hallway. It extends for a long stretch, and Jade catches sight of another one of those horrendous spiders spiders from before. When he turns around to ask Boyd if the spider is real, he is gone, leaving Jade with no choice but to keep going alone. Jade grabs an oil lamp and follows the hallway until he spots a crack in the wall, so he decides to step inside to check it out. The first thing he sees is an intricate network of tunnels, but once he realizes he is completely in over his head, he starts screaming for help. These situations are definitely not his forte, and he couldn't possibly be more terrified. Boyd shows up 2 seconds later and tells him to shut up. Nothing good has ever happened in tunnels like these before, and he needs to keep his cool or he'll attract something that could kill them. Jade tells him they are right under the colonial house. Based on what they know, the tunnels shouldn't be this close, but Boyd reveals to him that they walked for several miles through that creepy tunnel back there. They need to leave immediately. Boyd invokes the rules and says the password, Capricorn. The adventure is over for now. They have to head back right away before anything else happens. At that moment, Boyd tells him to follow him, but Jade catches sight of the boy again and walks away to see this through to the very end. Managing to reach the cave where the children were sacrificed by the settlers, he asks the boy what he is trying to tell him. He needs to know how to save them when they have failed so many times, and right then, the creatures appear and slowly approach him with smiles on their faces. They tell him he should have listened to Boyd, but he has never exactly been known for being the most cautious person. Now he will learn that knowledge comes with a price, and before he can do a thing, Jade finds himself completely surrounded. They overpower him and throw him into a hole in the ground, then cover it with a massive boulder. At that moment, a hideous child with a skull full of worms appears right next to him and repeats the word Ankui, which means remember, causing Jade to spiral into pure panic. In the next scene, Jade wakes up at the station house, screaming as Boyd tries to calm him down. He asks how the hell they got back there so fast, but Boyd reveals to him that they never left. Jade had just been staring out the window for a few hours and then sat down right before he started screaming. As Boyd looks at him with concern, Jade finally connects the dots and reveals that he finally knows how they can get back home. He has figured the whole thing out, and it's all about the children. Saving them is the way out, and now he knows exactly how to do it. We start this chapter with a quick recap. It has been 15 days since our last visit to Fromville. Randall is fed up with watching Julie risk her life on a senseless mission. Meanwhile, Sophia has found out about what they have been doing in the ruins behind her back, so she is now planning something against them. On top of that, Henry is not handling the truth very well. It is not every day that you hear from your son that your wife, whom you waited for patiently for 20 years after watching her descend into madness, was devoured by a malevolent figure who uses yellow as his signature color. Out by the lake, Tabitha is struggling with memories of a past that arrives in fragments and the attack of the dolls from her history. Her mind only gives her what is necessary at the exact right moment. Another mind that does not seem to be functioning quite right is Jade's, who had an astral projection without ever leaving his chair. The answers to his questions came in a bloody and terrifying way, but when he managed to wake up, he had an epiphany. Now, we are all very eager to see if this revelation will actually be useful for figuring out their dark, mysterious fate in this place. After following his childhood self through the woods, his visions ended with a terrifying scene of him being buried alive by the smiling creatures. But now he has finally woken up at the police station. This is the moment we have been waiting for 2 weeks, so enough reminiscing about the past. Let's head straight into the 6th chapter of this season and uncover more surprises. We are at the police station. Jade is telling Boyd about the way he has discovered to finally save the children, but he does not believe a word of it. How is it possible that Jade was able to see all that without moving from his chair? And worse, that he is proposing an expedition to the nest of those things to unearth some bones that might not even be there. On top of all that, Jade still has not figured out the next step. If they risk their lives to dig up a bunch of bones that turn out to be useless, what will happen to those who do not make it out of the tunnel? Because there will surely be losses. There always are. However, Jade has a solid theory. Every known civilization has a history with human remains and understood the power that sacrifice hides, so it is not entirely crazy that the only reason those things do not come out during the day is because they are protecting the only thing that can truly hurt them. Boyd needs a little more to be convinced, and that is when Jade mentions the door in the basement. If those visions were real, that door should be there. Considering he has never even been to that location, it is clear this could be a vivid memory from one of his ancestors. They decide to place all the credibility of his visions on the existence of that door. They wait for dawn and head to the spot to test the theory. There, they find Acosta, who was inventorying the place as Boyd requested to keep her out of trouble. Without wasting any time, Jade starts demolishing the huge pile of old belongings where the door is supposed to be, but all he can see is a massive rock wall. His theory does not hold up, and Boyd's confidence begins to waver. However, the real turning point is when Jade reminds him of what he did to his wife to keep this place safe, and Boyd grabs him by the throat. At that moment, Jade tells him that there is a finite amount of time he can keep this place running, but sooner or later, everyone will die. There is no doubt about that. He can call him crazy all he wants, but at least he is actually getting some answers. Their conversation is overheard by Kenny, who now wants to know everything. After Boyd catches him up on what is happening, mentioning bones, reincarnation, and smiling monsters, Kenny knows that dark days are ahead. Unfortunately, their conversation is interrupted by Victor, who has decided to climb onto the roof of the house and has remained motionless, making everyone nervous. Boyd goes up to talk to him and find out the reason for this. Victor tells him that many years ago, a man jumped from that very spot. He hated this town so much, and the idea of living trapped, surrounded by monsters, that he could not take it anymore and simply chose the easy way out. The only problem is that the height was not enough, and it took days until he finally died. Boyd mentions that he saw the drawing of the man in yellow and wants to know if he can remember anything else about him. From what he has heard, he arrived in town just like anyone else, and after that, many bad things happened, so he is curious about it. That is when Victor tells him not to worry. He does not plan on jumping, and he promises to try to remember something more about the subject, but that will surely take him some time. On the other side of town, Julie finds Sarah carrying some cans of paint and approaches her with curiosity to see what she is doing. Sarah explains that they are to cheer Sophia up. She plans to redecorate her room, as it is the only thing she can think of to lift her spirits. At that moment, Julie tells her that she is truly sorry for what happened between them, apologizes for what she said, and expresses her wish to put the past behind them. Sarah accepts her apology and asks if she would like to help with the painting. That way, they could get it all done faster and bring some joy to someone who really needs it. Back with Victor, he tells Boyd that the man in yellow arrived in a large brown car, a vehicle he hid in the woods because it brought back bad memories. At first, they thought he was a funny man because of his suit, but then everything changed and he became evil. Before Victor can continue with his story, Donna interrupts. Boyd is surprised to see her return so early, but one look at her face reveals that something has happened, something very bad, and they are in desperate need of his immediate help. Inside the barn, Donna has brought in the body of Roger, the man who was tragically killed by the giant doll. She takes a few moments to try to explain what they saw by the lake and how to make sense of this situation, but it is impossible to grasp from any angle. She decides to get straight to the point. They were attacked by giant rag dolls that emerged from the lake. She explains that they possessed overwhelming strength and managed to grab Roger, but thanks to Tabitha's recovered memories, they discovered that totems are their weakness. Once they pierced one of those creatures with them, the rest fled. They decided to bring them back as a precaution, although it forced them to leave behind a good amount of food. A few seconds later, Donna removes the cover from Roger. We can see he is not how we saw him last. His jaw is held together by stitches, and he has a pair of buttons for eyes. Those things tried to turn him into one of them, or at least that was their plan. As for Ellis, he runs straight to the communal house to see Fatima. He missed her terribly during those days. But upon arriving and finding her building what looks like a 2-meter monster made of clay, she assures him that she is not going crazy. The golem makes her feel protected. Ellis apologizes to her for not being there, considering everything this place has done to her and everything it could potentially do. He understands that seeking refuge in the beliefs of her past is not wrong. He just wants her to explain so he can help her be strong once again. At the same time, Ethan finds Victor trying to remember more about the man in yellow while drawing everything he recalls. But as Ethan keeps asking questions, Victor tells him that he cannot share it. When he told his father, he became very upset, and he does not want the same thing to happen to him. Ethan then asks asks if he can draw with him, and Victor welcomes the company, but asks him not to peek at his drawing. That is when Ethan reveals that the lake has monsters, giant ones, like ragdolls, and that his mother managed to kill one of them. Victor mentions that his mother was also very brave. She was the one who faced the terrifying things, and he does not believe that his father is as strong as she was. He is going through a difficult time and admits that he does not know how to help him. We immediately see Henry at the police station holding the yellow suit in his hands, struggling to keep his composure. Sophia passes by and observes the moment closely. Although she enjoys it with malice, she knows she can use it to her advantage, so she enters to talk to Henry. Using her facade as a concerned, religious young woman, Sophia tries to persuade Henry to tell her what is wrong. She knows perfectly well what is happening and savors the moment, just as she savored the taste of his wife, whom she devoured slowly after the massacre. As for Tabitha, she is telling Boyd her story with the dolls. That is when Kenny says a phrase that gives perspective to everything they have been living through. Our fears become part of the forest. He tells them that Nathan was afraid of cicadas. He confessed it to him before the whole town was covered by them. This theory could actually make sense. However, for Donna, it is all too much. Now they not only have to face the smiling monsters, but any deranged mind could become a weapon against them. She leaves the room trying to get some water, but she faints in the hallway. Boyd catches her before she hits the ground and orders Kenny to get Christy as soon as possible. She is busy healing Patty's burn. Let's remember that the giant rag doll pushed her into a campfire, and now her face looks like a disastrous grill mishap. However, the priority is Donna, and Christy arrives with a defibrillator. They now know she is suffering a heart attack, but after 3 attempts with the machine, she does not react, and Christy gives up. It is not the same for Boyd. He orders her to keep trying while repeating, "It's Donna, damn it, do it again!" Christy asks him to stop, but Boyd does not. He begins to shout that she will not die unless he decides it. They need her too much, and he continues doing compressions until Donna finally returns to life. Her pulse is weak, so they need to connect her to a monitor immediately, but for that, they require the help of Jade and the cables in the barn. The only problem is that Roger's body is covering the cables, and when Jade sees him, he almost loses his mind. At that moment, Boyd pleads with him to stay focused. Roger is already dead. Donna is the priority, and Jade knows he is right. So, they move the body, take the cables, and head back to the communal house to help with Donna. Once they manage to get the monitor up and running, they discover that her vital signs are stable, but they do not know how long her brain was deprived of oxygen, so the question of whether she will wake up remains a total mystery. Ethan convinces everyone to let him say goodbye to her, convinced that she is going to die. In front of everyone, he tells her that he will not forget her words, and will always try to be brave, because fear is what drives us to be brave in the first place. After that, the boy leaves the room with his mother, leaving Donna lying in bed, with the lingering question of whether she will actually wake up from this event. Back with Henry, he is already completely drunk. Sophia has been drinking with him, pretending to try and soothe the supposed pain she has been through. So as they try to uncork the second bottle of alcohol, she feels she has finally earned enough of the old man's trust to ask him why he was staring so intensely at the strange suit at the police station. Henry confesses to her that the suit's owner did horrendous things to his family. Now, all he has left is his son, who has been trapped in that place for 40 years and has lived through some truly terrible things, but he is very strong, unlike his own father. When Sophia asks him if he knows anything about that man's whereabouts, Henry admits he has no idea, but he hopes he is rotting in hell, suffering for all the evil he caused. A few seconds later, seeing that Henry is completely drunk, Sophia approaches the bar where there is a broken glass. She picks up a shard and squeezes it in her hand so hard that she causes a significant wound. At that moment, the old man starts looking for a rag to bandage her, and that is when we see Sophia let several drops of her blood fall into his drink. Who knows what this will cause to a man who has waited and suffered far too much in his life. On the other side, Randall catches Bacta taking supplies from the cafeteria and asks her what she is planning. She tells him she is going to cook for everyone at the communal house. Donna had a heart attack, and everyone is quite shaken, especially Ethan, Julie's little brother, so she thinks it would be a good idea for him to tag along. At the same time, Julie and Sarah are painting the room and have no idea what has happened, but the conversation is nice. They are talking about things they used to do before all of this, and Sarah admits she has a major sweet tooth and used to eat so many sweets until she couldn't take anymore. As for Julie, the only sweet she would have once a week without her mother's permission was when her father took her to a donut shop and let her pick out whatever she wanted. At first, it seemed silly. She didn't even like donuts that much, and it took a while for her to realize that it wasn't about the donuts at all. It was their own special time together, something just for them, with no one else around. When she got a little older, she started skipping those trips to the donut shop to hang out with her friends, and now she looks back on those choices as a complete mistake. Now, she wishes she could be back in that shop, eating a donut and smiling with her father, but all she has left is the emptiness of having lost him. Hearing all this, Sarah can only reach out and give her a hug, one that feels strangely comforting, and Julie accepts it. On the other hand, we return to the communal house, where everyone is waiting for Donna to wake up, and Ellis finally comes out to talk to his father about what they went through at the lake and Fatima's current state. He admits it was a bit strange to see his wife building a monster of clay in the middle of her room, but as crazy as it sounds, he believes it is exactly what is helping her. So as long as that thing stays harmless, he will let it be. After all, it is not like he could just destroy it. After that, we go back to the main issue. The room door opens, and the news has not changed. Donna has not managed to wake up, but she needs a break, so Boyd goes in to relieve her from her shift. Once they are alone, Boyd tells Donna to stop the nonsense and open her eyes, but she does not react. This makes him realize they are truly in trouble, and without her, this whole place will fall apart in an instant. Boyd tries to tell her she cannot do this to him. He cannot lead this place without her. She is far too important to everyone, and now is not the time to play the victim or fake a heart attack, so he pleads with her to just get up so they can keep going. If she expects him to just say goodbye, she is very wrong. They have too much left to do. He just wants her to cut the crap and wake up, because they need her much more than they will ever need him. At that moment, Boyd is visited by the priest, whose spirit asks him what he plans to do if Donna does not wake up. It is a practical question for which he should have an answer. Perhaps not a convincing one, but at least one he can tell the others. Boyd asks him if he remembers the night they arrived in town, and he was standing in the middle of the street like a complete lunatic. That day, he met Donna and remembers perfectly the first question she asked him after they escaped from the most horrible and terrifying monsters he had ever seen. Donna looked at him, calm and collected, and asked if he snored, as if that were a reasonable question to ask after such a terrifying moment. For him, the existence of the monsters was the priority at that instant, along with the safety of his family. Boyd remembers that night as the most terrifying of his life. Multiple times, he was convinced they wouldn't make it, but in the end, Donna guided him through every step until they survived the night, and she became a guiding beacon for him. After that, they started to get to know each other, and he found a true friend, someone worthy of trust to whom he would entrust his son without blinking. Donna is that figure of affection and respect we all need in life and often wish we had valued more once they are gone, but that will not be the case this time. She will wake up, she will be fine, and they will keep going with all of this until they can finally return home. At that moment, Boyd bows his head and answers the question with, "I have no damn idea how to do this without her." But that is when the priest reminds him of Jade's words and what he discovered. He does not have to do it without her, because it is time to take all these people home, and he already knows how to. He cannot throw away everything Jade discovered just because the door was not in the basement. It is time to start thinking about a strategy. But Boyd raises his voice and tells him to shut up. This is not the time to talk about that. And once there is complete silence in the room, a small groan coming from Donna brings back hope and the will to keep fighting for our protagonist. After having wandered through the Valley of the Shadows, Donna wakes up and Boyd is there waiting for her. He holds her hand tightly and tells her that everything will be okay, that everyone is there for her. A few seconds later, Christy enters to perform the necessary tests to see if there is any major damage, but Boyd shares the good news with everyone, who had been anxiously waiting for the results. At the same time, Randall is helping Bacta with the food. When the first curious person smells the stew, it turns out to be Elgin, who notices that Randall has a huge scar on his face. Apparently, they are the best-looking guys in the house. This makes the young man feel a bit more comfortable and approach the task with more motivation. After everything that has happened, it is not like he goes around trusting everyone he meets. He doesn't have that many eyes left to lose. To wrap up the chapter, we return to Henry, who has finally managed to bandage Sophia's finger with kindness and thanks her for her company. She offers a toast to new friends, and we can see him finally drink the glass, now laced with the ancient blood of the man who ate his wife. She confesses to him that this town makes no sense at all. The supplies never run out, monsters come out at night, and everyone experiences crazy things all the time. She then asks him if he has ever thought that this might just be a collective nightmare from which they cannot wake up. While she speaks, we notice Henry becoming strangely docile all of a sudden. Boyd heads out to the yard for some fresh air, and the priest returns to pick up their conversation. He cannot deny that getting Donna back is good news, but it does not erase what happened to Roger or the countless evils that might emerge from that lake, like the ragdoll monsters. It is time to go home, but Boyd remembers something Martin told him a long time ago. The monsters are just the tip of the spear. Boyd cannot risk organizing a mission to the tunnels based on the assumption that those bones will save them, and that is where the priest tells him that some things can only be done with faith. But Boyd decides to do things differently. First, he goes to the barn, grabs a sledgehammer, and walks straight into the basement. He positions himself right in front of the wall where the door Jade saw in his dreams is supposed to be, and starts hitting it with all his might. The people upstairs hear the commotion, and Jade comes down to witness what is going on. He sees Boyd losing his mind for a few seconds. With every swing of the sledgehammer against the wall, he yells at whatever is behind it, saying that if it really wants him to take the risk and do what it asks, it needs to guide him and show him the damn door once and for all. At that moment, the strikes from the sledgehammer seem to shake the whole house, and a few seconds later, the wall crumbles, revealing the door right behind it. Jade cannot believe what he is seeing, and Boyd turns around to tell him that it is time to draw up the plan. It is finally time to go home. The 7th chapter picks up right where we left off, but this time we see Randall trying to find a way to open the mysterious door that Boyd discovered, the place where they are supposed to carry out the ultimate plan to finally get out of there. Apparently, someone sealed the door in a nearly impenetrable way, so for the moment, they can only hang an amulet on it and wait for Boyd to come up with a solid plan, using everything that Jade has uncovered so far. Up in the common room, Boyd has spent quite a while looking for Henry. He needs to talk to him immediately, but when he finally shows up, he is completely drunk. Let's remember he was out partying with Sophia, and she gave him a little bit of her blood without him even noticing. Now, Henry shares blood with the man in yellow, which could bring some quite interesting and dangerous consequences for everyone. While that is happening, Tabitha finally opens up to her children and tells Yuli about her past in this place, explaining the times she has reincarnated into different versions that have all gone through the same thing. That experience is exactly what allowed her to remember how to hurt the ragdolls. She confesses to them that during one of her many past lives in this place, she was actually Miranda, Victor's mother. That is precisely what Boyd is telling Henry at that very moment, and he refuses to accept that it is the truth. In fact, he gets very upset, and if he were not drunk, he would have likely tried to hit Boyd, but Victor is more willing to listen. This place hides too many secrets, and anything seems possible. Victor warns them that he is running out of time. They need to find the man in yellow, because if he has returned, it means that everyone's death is approaching. What he experienced is about to happen all over again, and this time, Ethan might be the only one they leave alive. That night, a meeting is held in the common room where Jade is honest with everyone and tells them the absolute truth. Even though it seems hard to believe, what matters now is that Jade saw something during his trip with the mushrooms that he could not have seen before. The existence of the door behind the concrete wall means something, and the story of the children who were sacrificed is the most plausible theory they have about this place so far. For Boyd, the message in the barn means something more than just a threat. Knowledge has a cost. If their enemy is willing to threaten them, it is because he fears what they have recently discovered about the mysteries surrounding this place. For the first time since they all arrived, they might be close to finding a way to understand this place and break the cycle that keeps them captive. Henry appears in the middle of the meeting and tries to convince everyone that Boyd is crazy. He claims that what he is saying about his wife is blasphemy and they shouldn't believe him. However, the group is faced with an unknown environment. On one side, they have Boyd, who has been their guide since the beginning. On the other, Henry, a drunk man who has been behaving erratically for the last 2 days. It is easy to decide which side to take. Jade catches up with Henry and tries to tell him that his wife was always right. Saving the children is the only way to get everyone home, but Henry refuses to listen. He tells him that all they will cause is more pain to people who have already suffered too much. He insists they won't achieve anything beyond spreading lies. Meanwhile, Victor has decided to leave the colonial house and go directly to Tabitha. Something inside him says that it might be true and that she could be his mother, whom he misses dearly. However, it is Tabitha's responsibility to make him see that, even if she shares memories of his past past, she is not exactly the person he needs to find right now. She holds his memories and some experiences, but not what would make her his mother. Despite what Tabitha thought, Victor tells her that they need to resolve the situation regarding the man in yellow, which will require doing something terrifying, and he asks Tabitha if she would be willing to accompany him. Meanwhile, Boyd meets with Kenny and Jade in the attic. They begin planning their strategy. First, they need to gather everyone who has been in the tunnels to help them draw a map as accurate as possible. Furthermore, he needs to talk to Randall. Given all the nights he has spent on the bus, he surely knows something about those things, their movement patterns, and, if possible, a count of all of them. But what worries him most for the moment is that they have just dropped a bombshell of information on people who often make mistakes. If they take too long to act, others might start following their own theories and do something foolish. Therefore, they must be precise and fast before anyone else dies. With the guys working, Boyd meets with Acosta, who now knows that the job she was given in the basement was not just to keep her busy, but because she was the forerunner and pioneer in finding a clue to the plan. Now, Boyd has come to ask her what she has for him. Acosta doesn't believe the story about reincarnation, but Boyd assures her that he has been through too much in this place to waste time lying to people or messing with their heads. This place constantly throws tons of garbage at you, trying to break your mind. He has seen horrible things and is just tired. So, he needs her help. He asks her to assemble a team and keep searching the basement, while another group stays in the diner to find out everything they can about the man in the yellow suit. After getting everyone to work, Boyd takes a moment to visit Donna. While he waits outside, he finds a child's toy that shows images of the world outside, the place they are trying to return to. He starts flipping through the pictures and sees New York City and the pyramids. But the next image is a photo of him and his wife at their wedding. It leaves him stunned. Before asking anyone if what he is seeing is real, he decides to skip the photo and realizes it was just this place messing with his mind. A few minutes later, Christy comes out and tells him that Donna is ready to see him. But before he goes in, she asks him how he is holding up with the tremors in his hand. He tells her he is dealing with them, but when Christy asks if he is still seeing things that aren't there, Boyd lies to her, saying that it is already resolved and it hasn't happened to him again. The first thing Donna asks him is if he really thought it was a good idea to gather a bunch of mentally unstable and frightened people to talk to them about dead children and reincarnation. Boyd has to admit that he might have rushed things a bit, but he is doing the best he can to sort this out. Furthermore, she asks him if she should be worried about the door in her basement. He assures her that they made sure it is sealed and that they will place an amulet on it just in case. So, everything is fine for the moment. The only thing she needs to do is rest and regain her strength. Right now, he needs her to tell him about what happened at the lake and about those magical totems they used to hurt the ragdolls. When Donna asks why, Boyd confesses that he plans to use one of those totems on one of the nighttime monsters, hoping that they might work and serve as their weapons when they head into the tunnel. Donna reminds him of what happened the last time he killed one of those things, asking if he is prepared to deal with another pregnant woman and what people will say about him throughout that time. But since they are about to walk into the lion's den, that is a risk Boyd is willing to take. Down on the porch, Acosta has gathered a group of people and is starting to form her investigation team. What catches our attention is that Sophia is there, alert, listening to everything they are saying and offering her willingness to participate. Seconds later, Boyd leaves the house with a totem in his hand. Sophia cannot help but watch him closely, as if the presence of those things in this place bothers her. In the barn, Mary Ellen takes a few minutes to look at what happened to Roger. When Christy arrives to ask her what she is doing, she tells her that her mother had a very beautiful idea of heaven, but this place has nothing to do with that. She doesn't plan on ending up like that scumbag over there, so whatever it is that Boyd is planning to do to recover those bones and free them from this place, they have to help him. Back in the town center, Boyd is explaining his plan to his son. It is quite simple, actually. First, they will wait for nightfall. According to Randall, those things have patterns, and all of them repeat the same behavior during every visit. So, they will surprise one of them and attack it with the totem. If this actually works, it will make the journey into the tunnels much safer. If it doesn't work, they must mark escape routes to reach the police station or nearby houses as quickly as they can. But the most important part of this is the element of surprise. Those things warnings are used to people hiding inside their homes, lowering the shutters and trying to ignore them. None of them expects to be attacked from different flanks at the same time. They will only have one chance to get this right. Not far from there, Henry tries to find Tabitha to finally talk to her, and he ends up entering her house without permission. There, he sees some drawings on the table where he notices that Ethan treats Victor as if he were his brother. But a few seconds later, he has a strange vision of himself connected to a monitor, with bright lights shining directly into his face. As for Tabitha, she and Victor have arrived at the junkyard. There, he shows her the car in which the man in yellow arrived, but nothing seems out of the ordinary. It is just an old, empty car. However, everything changes when Victor decides to check the glove compartment and finds a small leather pouch filled with human teeth. Very close by, Tabitha manages to spot the car that once belonged to Miranda, and as she approaches it, she has a vision of her arrival in the town. At that moment, Victor appears and tells them that Ethan must be prepared for what is coming. The last time the man in yellow came, everyone died and the boy survived, but now he is here to prepare him. Yet what he actually succeeds in doing is scaring them. Back at the police station, Sophia manages to use her act as an innocent, generous girl to get some information out of Boyd. She learns about the plan they have for that night, to attack one of the smiling monsters using the totem and utilize the escape routes they have planned toward the police station and a nearby house. The next thing we see is Sophia walking alone toward the chicken coop. There, she begins to look closely at the nests until she finds exactly what she was looking for. After sniffing a couple of eggs, Sophia ends up stealing one, putting it in her pocket, and walking back as if nothing happened. She passes by the diner, where Julie is sitting alone until Elgin arrives to join her and asks if she believes her mother's story is true. Julie tells him it doesn't matter if she believes it. Her mother is convinced that it is, and that terrifies her because every time someone seems to have uncovered what is going on in this place, they end up dead. For her, this place is just a damn purgatory, where everyone has to suffer so that those things can be happy, and she has already had her fair share of suffering so far. So why can't they just leave her family alone once and for all? Julie asks him what really happened to his eye, but he tells her he cannot tell her. His injury is part of his test, a trial that everyone goes through, and this place wants to see them fail by throwing so many lies in their faces that they cannot see the truth. He knows how frustrating that can be, but she cannot go around hating everyone for no reason. Pushing away the people who care about you is not the solution. That is how they win. Back with Jade, he has used his method to create a kind of map of the tunnels, trying to remember everything he experienced during his astral journey, when Henry appears to keep drinking that liquor, which helps him deal with his problems. Jade asks him if he has talked to Tabitha about all of this yet, and he says he tried to do it earlier, but couldn't find her. At that moment, he starts hearing the beeping of the medical monitor from before, and a few seconds later, the light returns. At first, Jade thinks he might be drunk, but a few seconds later, Henry has a vision of himself waking up in a hospital, with Victor right there beside him as a grown, completely sane man. Victor welcomes him and asks him to please stay this time, but a few seconds later, Henry snaps back and Jade is right there trying to help him keep from falling off his chair. When he asks what he saw, Henry just gets scared and runs off. Back with Boyd, he is telling Sarah that he needs her to be on the lookout at her door that night, in case for some reason he comes running in that direction, and she asks him to just let him do it. She is the one who deserves to risk her life to do something useful, but he tells her that she doesn't have to keep punishing herself for what she did. Besides, they will need her if they go down into those tunnels. She is one of the bravest people there is, and what they will do tonight is a piece of cake, considering what is coming later on. At the end of her journey, Sophia reaches the barn where Roger's body rests. There, she kneels in front of him and speaks a few words in a strange language over the egg, before cracking it against his chest, where we can see that the yolk has turned into blood. Immediately after, she tells Roger that the time has come to play. Once nightfall approaches, Boyd makes his daily rounds with the bell, warning everyone that they must be inside. We can see Donna trying to sneak out of her room to stand guard at the door, in case Boyd needs to come in, but Fatima intercepts her and tells her they need her to rest, so she takes her back to bed. She asks how she has been. She heard about her little project in the attic, and Donna tells her it has helped her quite a bit. It's like her good luck charm, and it makes her feel a little further away from the cursed monster she gave birth to. At that moment, we see that Sophia has slipped away from Sarah's house and plans to spend the night at the colonial house, claiming that those creatures scare her too much and she does not want to be alone. Back at the police station, Boyd and his son meet with Kenny. From this moment on, they have to wait 1 hour to carry out the plan. For now, they just have to pretend it is a normal night, like any other. However, the guys have been thinking, and they do not want Boyd to put himself at risk, so they beg him to let them do it. He is not a young man anymore. The last time they had to run, his knee gave out and put him in danger. He should let them handle it, but Boyd is not willing to risk anyone else's life on a plan that was his own idea. As Boyd makes it clear that he will do it, the guys see that his hand won't stop shaking, and he gets upset. He starts yelling at his own hand to stop, and they realize he is not in his best condition, and the town could not handle losing him. Ellis begs him to listen to them. They ask him to think about what would happen to everyone if he dies. They have planned this well. They are young and strong, and they can do it. There is no need for him to take such an unnecessary risk. Once those things begin to emerge, Boyd watches them closely to identify the perfect target, while Kenny prepares for the most crucial task, stabbing one of those monsters with the totem. The young man could not look any more nervous, but he knows that if anyone has to take the risk, it is him. While they make their move, we see Sophia sitting alone in a room, whispering words in an unknown language to revive Roger, who will be her puppet in this mission to ruin their plan. Sophia's incantation works, and Roger comes back to life. At first, he is terrified, touching his face in desperation as he feels the sutures and the buttons in his eyes. He begins to scream in agony. In his frenzy, tears off the stitches along with a large part of his jaw. After a moment, Ellis manages to spot a perfect target. The others are far away, and the creature is alone, so it is time for action. Kenny asks for a few seconds to gather his nerve. He grips the totem tightly and steadies his breathing. Then, he signals Boyd to open the door. The young man stabs the ice cream man directly in the chest, and he collapses with an agonizing scream. However, a few seconds later, when he turns around to head back to the police station, he realizes that an old woman is blocking the door, watching him with a smile, joined by the rest of the monsters who emerge from the shadows, revealing that they were waiting for him all along. When Kenny tries to find an escape route, he realizes there is a monster standing in front of every nearby house door. 2 seconds later, the ice cream man stands up and tells him he was only joking. The attack did him no harm. Kenny ends up fleeing toward the bus, but he is unable to close the door because the smiling monster, the leader of them all, jams his hand in the frame at the precise moment. In that exact instant, Fatima seems to see the same thing the monster is seeing and realizes Kenny is in danger. Apparently, what she said about her connection to the monster is real, and she is about to watch as her supposed son devours one of the townspeople. Kenny manages to scramble onto the roof of the bus, only to realize he is completely surrounded. A few seconds later, the monster follows him, while Fatima clearly sees through its eyes what is about to happen. The monster begins to describe the exact way he murdered his father, recalling that he used to make strange noises while he was being eaten, and he is curious to know if Kenani will make the same sounds. A second later, the monster finally transforms, revealing his true nature, with sharp claws and teeth ready to devour Kenny's flesh. But at that moment, Fatima screams, "No!" and his transformation recoils, giving Kenny the chance to run and push him off the bus. Kenny quickly gets back inside and locks both doors, making sure the talisman is in place, which keeps him completely safe for now. The problem is that Roger has arrived at the colonial house and managed to break through the entry barriers. The panic bells start ringing, which gives them just enough time to slam the door shut before the monsters can enter. But now they are forced to deal with Roger, who has the same teeth as the monsters and has come to devour them. Just before Roger can attack his best friend, Elgin appears with the totem and stabs him in the back, successfully ending his life. At that very moment, we can see Sophia on the second floor, smiling as she realizes that this group of people will be harder to kill than she thought. However, that just adds a certain level of fun to her mission. The 8th episode of the 4th season is finally here and starts right where we left off, with Roger's body lying on the ground after being impaled by one of the wooden totems. But at least daylight has broken and the other monsters are gone, so Boyd takes a few minutes to check the body and make sure he is really dead. On top of that, he worries about Steve, who took a real beating but is at least still alive. Donna reveals to Boyd that without Elgin, this would have turned out much worse. So the boy has finally decided to be useful, meaning it would be a good idea idea to end his punishment and use him for other tasks. However, before Boyd can make a decision, a couple starts arguing behind his back because they are terrified by what happened and are thinking about leaving the colony house. People are scared and on edge because they have realized that the talismans cannot protect them against every single bad thing that shows up in this place. And if that is true, it is a valid reason to be worried. But they have always found a way to fight back, or at least that is what Donna believes. A few seconds later, Sophia appears with a half smile on her face, but then she switches into actress mode and asks Boyd if his plan worked and if the totems are actually useful against the night monsters. But when he reveals that it was an absolute failure and they almost lost Kenny, she tells him she is so sorry, even though she is actually thrilled to have yet another way to mess with their minds. Before they can decide what to do with the body, Ellis shows up and asks his father to come with him right away. However, Boyd had already thought of a solution and orders Acosta to get a bonfire ready. They are going to burn the corpse completely. Up in the attic, Fatima is extremely worried and has something very important to tell them. She describes how last night she was able to see through that creature's eyes, and that her scream was what stopped that thing for the few seconds Kenny needed to save himself. Yet, after that happened, she started feeling cold inside, and this morning a rash broke out all over her body, looking as if her veins were beginning to turn black. Seeing this, Boyd has no idea what to do. His son needs his advice and help, but for the first time in a while, he has just run into something he was not prepared for. This is completely new. They do not know if being able to see where they are heading is an advantage or a curse that could kill Fatima at any moment. On the other hand, over at Tabitha's house, Ethan has started drawing frantically, just like Victor used to do a long time ago. Her son is sketching every single member of the community who is still alive. He does not want to forget them if something happens to them. Tabitha does not want her son spending time with Victor anymore, at least not for now. After what he said yesterday about everyone dying soon, and Ethan being the sole survivor, she is not quite sure that spending time with him is the best idea. But taking away his only friend does not seem like the right move, especially since his relationship with his son has improved so much, so she decides to tackle the issue from the other side and speak directly with Victor. Boyd leaves Fatima in his son's hands for the time being. He needs to go talk to Jay, who has finally built a model of the tunnels, but it looks like a pile of junk on the table, and nobody can make sense of it except for him. At first, Boyd does not understand anything he is looking at, but once Jay starts explaining the tunnels, the pathways, the potential entrances, and how they could execute the plan, everything begins to make a bit more sense. And he keeps talking and talking, but the only thing that remains completely clear to Boyd is that the chamber where the bones are supposed to be has only one way in. And according to his time in the army, during the few years he spent there, that is what they call a shooting gallery. It is a place where everybody dies, and there is absolutely no doubt about it. Because of this, any plans Boyd has come up with can be forgotten. They need a way to solve this problem, as the chamber is a death sentence. If they manage to get through the tunnels and retrieve the bones, what will they do when those things wake up and block their only way out? Whatever they come up with next has to be better than everything they planned before. Jay does not like that everything he figured out is going out the window and makes it crystal clear, but Boyd does not plan to risk everyone's lives on a plan that is obviously a terrible idea. This might be the last card they have left, and they need to play it right. Kenny comes outside to tell him he did not have to be so harsh on Jay, who is trying really hard to come up with a strategy, but Boyd stands by his words. They cannot go into a place with only one exit. They will die, without a doubt. And just as they are about to keep arguing, he hears a couple of gunshots right behind him. So he reacts quickly and spins around, but the only problem is that he is the only one who heard the shots, leaving Kenny completely baffled, trying to figure out what is going on. And even though he does not know it yet, we recognize them as the two gunshots from the time he had to kill his wife. Meanwhile, Henry walks into the diner and notices it is a total mess, so he asks what is going on, and the manager tells him Boyd ordered everything to be pulled out of storage. They are trying to find any clue about the guy in the yellow suit, since they still have no idea who he is, what he is planning, or when he will get there. Henry confesses that he has been drinking heavily lately and is trying to stop, but he needs to keep himself busy. Realizing the old man is reaching out for a lifeline, she tells him he should help her with lunch. Anyone can learn how to cook, and maybe it will be his thing. Before they can show him the kitchen, one of the diner's speakers kicks on and starts playing his late wife's favorite song, making it an incredibly bizarre moment that takes him a couple of seconds to process. Back at the colony house, the people have gathered a wood pyre and started burning raw Roger's body, just as Tabitha is arriving with Ethan, and the boy notices Sophia waving at him pleasantly, so he waves back at her. Tabitha goes straight up to Victor's room and demands that he tell her son he will not be left all alone in this place, but Victor refuses. Everything he believes tells him it will happen, so he thinks it is best for the boy to learn how to be on his own. Surprisingly, the kid agrees. He asks his mother to leave them because he wants to learn everything Victor can teach him about what he did when it happened to him. If history is bound to repeat itself, Ethan wants to be prepared. After all, she was the one who put the idea in their heads that this has happened many times before, and now it is up to her son to decide what he wants to do. As for Fatima, she is completely terrified when they are about to run the ultrasound over her stomach, but it looks like there is nothing inside. Christy can only tell her that if they were in the normal world, those would just be veins caused by the stretching of the abdomen, but knowing they are in this place where nothing makes sense, she needs to run a couple more tests to give her an accurate diagnosis. Overwhelmed by worry for Fatima, Ellis loses his cool and ends up insulting Christy, calling her useless, but his father orders him to shut up and understand that nothing here is what it seems. He did not raise him to take his anger out on the people trying to help him. At that moment, Marielle tells her that maybe it is a side effect of what she did last night. After all, she heard the story that, thanks to her, Kenny is still alive, so maybe messing with the monster is what caused this. For now, the only thing they can offer them is for her to stay a couple of days in the clinic so they can monitor her vital signs and make sure this thing does not spread through her entire body. While that is happening, Jay cannot find a way to improve his previous plan. The image of the chamber where the bones are located is burned into his mind, and there is always only one way out. Jay begs Kenny to tell Boyd that he has to accept the fact that maybe not everyone who goes into that place will make it out alive, and someone will have to sacrifice themselves so the others can escape. Maybe that is why nobody has ever left this place before, because nobody has had the guts to face those things directly and walk right into their home. But Kenny fires back that until he sees that Jay is actually willing to sacrifice himself for others, he will not do anything he is asking, and he better keep brainstorming more ideas. Outside the clinic, Boyd waits for Christy to come clean with her. Earlier, when she asked if he was still seeing things, he lied to her. Not only is he seeing them, he is hearing them, and now his hand will not stop shaking. Worst of all, the only thing tying it all together is Abby, his wife, and it all started when he visited her grave and had a vision of her arm reaching out of the dirt and pulling him under. Later, at the colony house, he saw their wedding photo on a children's toy, plus the fact that her wedding ring appeared out of nowhere on his nightstand, and now he cannot stop hearing the gunshot that ended her life. He knows perfectly well that this place messes with your head, but this feels completely different, and he just wants to know why it is happening right now, at the exact moment they are about to do something that could actually get them out of here. He cannot decide if it is his wife telling him not to do it, or those things trying to mess with him so they fail. Christy understands completely that he is under a lot of stress, but Boyd tells her to save the Hippocratic speech and just give him something, a pill that can help him hold it together a little longer. At least until Jay comes up with a solid plan and they can figure out if there is actually a real chance of getting out of this place. Meanwhile, we see Sophia arrive at the police station and, realizing she is completely alone, she goes into Boyd's room and starts rummaging through all his drawers until she finally manages to find her yellow jacket. The first thing she does is pack it into a suitcase and head straight back to Sarah's house, where Sarah is waiting to confront her for disappearing the night before, without mentioning she would be sleeping over at the colony house. Noticing that Sarah is very sharp and is asking some pretty challenging questions, Sophia decides to play the victim. She tells her that maybe she isn't handling the reality of this place very well and is falling apart, just to get Sarah to change her attitude and comfort her, making her forget about what is inside the suitcase. Sarah does exactly that. She stops nagging her and mentions that if she needs fresh clothes, they can go to a place where she will find something that fits. Sophia thanks her for the help and heads inside. As for Victor, he takes Ethan and his mother to a massive shipping container out by the edge of the woods and tells them that when he came outside and saw all the bodies, that was the very first day he saw the boy in white. He told him there were 3 things he would need to survive. The first was food, and he showed him this shipping container that was packed to the brim with cans of preserved peaches. And that was the only thing he ate, along with some bugs and plants he found along the way, which he drew pictures of so Ethan could study them. But the hardest thing he had to face was the loneliness, and the boy in white told him he should make friends, even if they weren't alive. So Victor listened to him and made a few imaginary friends. He drew a face on a box and talked to it every single night. But Ethan won't have to resort to a box, because Victor has a couple of toys he made out of cardboard, scraps, and his mother's clothes, so that if what he fears actually happens, Ethan will have something much better to talk to at night. Thinking about all this and realizing what Victor is implying, Tabitha snaps and tells him to stop. Nothing he is saying helps, because Ethan is never going to be alone. She won't allow it and tells Victor that he doesn't just have his mother's memories, but also the deep love she felt for him. This time, things will be different. Not only will she get Ethan home, but Victor is coming back with them too, and neither of them will ever be alone again. So none of this is necessary. The strange thing is that the exact words Tabitha is saying right now are the ones Victor heard from his own mother, and that is the final straw for her. So they decide to get out of there as fast as possible. Back at the diner, Henry is chopping cabbage when one of the volunteers drops a tray, and the noise transports him to a completely different place. He is on a hospital gurney, and next to him is a young man trying to clean up the mess he just made. Realizing the old man is awake, the boy calls out to Victor, calling him Dad, and tells him that Grandpa just woke up. 2 seconds later, Victor walks through the door and begs his father not to leave again, asking him to stay with them. Henry asks where he is, and Victor tells him he is in a hospital and that nothing he has seen lately is real, but he is right there with him. His son reminds him that a couple of years ago, he was with his wife, and one night they decided to try acid, something Henry remembers perfectly. Victor tells him the drug was laced and put him into a coma, and they have been in that hospital ever since that day. Victor tells him that the boy from earlier was his grandson, and that Mom just boarded a plane and will be there very soon. But all of this sounds way too perfect for Henry to actually believe it. Right then, he has some kind of attack that snaps him right back to the diner. After seeing all that, he forgets about chopping the cabbage and runs out of there as fast as he can. As for Fatima, she and Ellis are getting into it once again. He is incredibly worried about her, but she is starting to think that what Marielle said might actually make sense. If her body paid the price for trying to control that creature, maybe that isn't entirely a bad thing. A rash in exchange for saving a life isn't that high of a price, and she is beginning to think she might be able to control the monster. But Ellis is terrified that something much worse will happen to her. To him, the thought of losing her is just too terrifying. He can take whatever this place throws at him, but every time something happens to her, he feels completely helpless. However, Fatima reminds him that this is her life, and he has no idea how she felt when that thing was inside her body, so he can't tell her what to do. He can either back her up or walk away. Those are his options. Back with Jay, he loses his patience and smashes all his work in a fit of rage. But then, he starts repeating the words Boyd told him. That part about the shooting gallery, and he starts to think there might be a way to pull it off because he clearly remembers looking up from inside the cave and seeing a patch of sunlight. At the station, Boyd just realized that someone stole the suit, but a few seconds later, Jay shows up and tells him he finally figured it out and needs them to come with him right away. While that is happening, we see Sophia walking into Tabitha's house and searching through everything, just like she did at the police station, including Ethan's drawings, and she starts gathering them all up to take them with her. Back with Jay, he takes the guys over to the bottle tree and tries to look up, remembering the pattern the branches made when he was down in the cave. So he starts moving slowly, trying to get the branches to line up exactly the way they did back then. Once they are in position, Jay tells them they are standing right on top of the cave where the bones are, and if they can find the exact spot where the branches come together to form the symbol he saw, then they will have their second exit. But since the upper branches of this tree don't look like the symbol he managed to see, it means it's about the root system underneath, and what they need to do is rip the tree out by its roots so they can see the exact cavern right beneath them. So this is the plan. They go into the tunnels, reach the chamber, and blow up the entrance, locking themselves completely inside and setting up a couple of talismans to make sure the monsters can't get in. Once they have the bones, the crew topside will rip the tree out using the cars and chains, and they will be able to climb out through the hole. However, even though Jay's plan is pretty solid and Kenny backs him up, Boyd wants a plan B, or at least some way to guarantee that the tree comes out, because if it doesn't, then everyone who goes down into the cavern will be trapped down there and will surely die. Furious, Jay reminds him that he asked for a solution to an impossible plan, and he delivered. But now Boyd is making it much harder on him. In the end, he tells him to rot with his demands. He just accomplished something nobody else has ever done, and if Boyd isn't happy with that, then he can just stay here and die like the rest. That cuts the conversation short, and Boyd walks away, telling him that until he can guarantee they can pull the tree out, they have nothing left to talk about. A few seconds later, Kenny catches up to him and asks him to wait, but when Boyd turns around, he can only watch as the boy gets shot in the chest and collapses. Right away, he tries to help him, but Kenny ends up dying just a few seconds later. And just when Boyd thinks what he is seeing is real, he realizes that the bodies of Tabitha, Donna, and Jay are lying right next to him. Worst of all is seeing Ellis and his wife. That genuinely leaves him completely terrified, and he starts screaming at the wind, demanding to know what the hell it wants from him. At that exact moment, we see Henry walking through the woods when he comes across a rock painted with a rainbow, just like his wife used to do. And he also starts asking the air what these things he is seeing are and what they mean. He wonders if all of this is actually a lie, and if what he saw in that hospital might be his reality, since everything was so perfect. He repeats his grandson's name, Sebastian, a couple of times, remembering he has his wife's eyes, who is still alive and waiting for him there. He wonders if he will really be able to see her on his next visit to that place, and if it is actually possible to stay. A few seconds later, he hears the same song again and snaps back to the hospital, where Sebastian tells his father that it actually worked and the music brings him back. And at that moment, the doctor, who is standing right there, reveals to him that he is growing stronger and stronger. Soon he won't have to go back to the nightmare and will be able to live with his family. The doctor tells him that in these cases, the only way for him to stay with them is to disconnect from that unreality he is trapped in, and she explains that he needs to eliminate the anchor keeping him there. A few seconds later, Henry snaps back to the woods and keeps wondering what they mean by eliminating the anchor, breaking down in tears as he realizes he just lost the chance to be happy with his family. So, while he deciphers the hidden message, we head over to the clinic, where Christy is checking Fatima's vitals, just as Fatima asks Marielle if she genuinely believes she could control that creature. Before she can answer, Christy asks her to step outside to talk in private for a moment. Marielle clarifies that she isn't forcing anything. Fatima wants to do this, and if it can help them get out of there, she is willing to guide her through a session. But what Christy tells her next completely freezes her blood. Fatima's blood pressure is 53/33, and at this exact moment, her heart rate is at 19 beats per minute, which means, based on everything she knows about medicine, Fatima shouldn't even be alive right now. That makes Marielle second-guess what she was about to do, as none of it makes any sense, and Christy checked it multiple times. So Fatima is facing something much worse than a rash, but they have no idea how to break the news to her. At that moment, the scene cuts to Tabitha, who allows Victor to take Ethan to visit Donna to make sure her recovery is going well. However, the interesting part happens inside the house, because as soon as she steps through the front door, the phone starts ringing. Once she answers, she can hear Thomas's voice telling her that he needs to see her at the RV, and that if she refuses to comply, he will hurt Ethan and Julie. Meanwhile, we see Boyd getting a visit from the Reverend, who tells him that no plan Jay puts in front of him will ever be good enough because he is obsessed with not losing anyone else, but he needs to get over it. He has to accept that a mission like this comes with risks, and he also has to accept that killing his wife was the right call. This isn't about keeping everybody safe and sound, it's about getting them back home, and there are lives that will be lost, which is completely out of his control. The end is about to repeat itself, and another cycle will begin. It isn't about saving everyone, it's about saving as many as he can. Otherwise, he will become just one chapter in a much longer history of suffering. So it's time for him to step up like a man, accept the consequences, and live with them, because he doesn't have any other damn choice. As soon as the Reverend vanishes, Boyd realizes he is right, but that doesn't keep him from feeling furious. And right away, we cut to Tabitha. She arrives at the RV and finds her son's drawings taped to the ceiling. But that isn't the truly terrifying part. What completely freezes her blood is seeing the man in yellow standing right behind her, thanking her for coming. He asks if she has reached the part where she remembers his name, but seeing the terror in her eyes, he realizes she hasn't, and she still has a long way to go. The old man tells her that her husband died right where she is standing. In fact, she can see his blood right next to her, and he admits the man was pretty brave. That's why he kept one of his teeth. Tabitha asks if he brought her all the way out here to kill her, but he tells her no. That has never been part of the plan, as he actually thought they were friends or something like that. He reveals to her that this time has been the best one yet, and that she and Jay are doing a fabulous job. The moment of her death hasn't come yet, but the reason he brought her here is to tell her that the plan to dig up the bones is a terrible idea. They think it will give them a way out of this place, but they will end up unleashing a world of suffering they have never been exposed to, which would totally ruin the fun. They have played this game many times, and he wants to keep it entertaining, so he charges her with the task of talking the rest out of following through with that plan, or her kids will be the first ones to join his collection of teeth. The 8th episode ends on a massive cliffhanger, leaving us with the distinct possibility that Tabitha might switch sides just to ensure the safety of her children. The 9th chapter started right where we left off, with a promise. The promise made to Henry to give him Victor back as a complete human being, with children and a happy family. The image of his son wearing a suit and tie, surrounded by a family with grandkids, is just too tempting for him to ignore. In fact, he has spent the entire afternoon thinking about what they told him. He has to eliminate the anchor, but what exactly do they mean by the anchor? Could all of this really be real? He might have just been trapped in a simple coma, and everything he has seen in this cursed town could be nothing more than a product of his own mind. That is the one question he has no answer for, at least for now. Meanwhile, the crisis with Fatima is becoming too obvious to keep a secret anymore. With a heart beating only 19 times per minute, she shouldn't even be alive. Unfortunately, Christy doesn't have a logical explanation for anything that is happening. On top of that, the father's vision has finally made Boyd realize that he won't be able to save everyone and must make a tough choice. He will end up losing every single member of this town when time runs out, and that moment seems to be much closer than we think, because it has forced the man in the yellow suit to appear in person right in front of Tabitha, telling her it's time to choose whether to save them or unleash endless suffering. The first thing Tabitha does is go to Boyd to tell him that that thing was inside her house. It had her son's drawings, which means the talisman is completely useless against it. At that exact moment, he has to admit they aren't safe anymore, not even in their own homes. Right then, Jade shows up to tell him it's the best version of the plan he can come up with, and to keep him happy, he will be the one to go directly into the tunnels himself. When Jade asks why he changed his mind so drastically, he tells him that the guy in yellow can enter the houses whenever he wants. The talismans are completely useless now, so at dawn tomorrow, they will start digging their shovels into the dirt with strength. They are going to recover those bones and leave this place for good. At the exact same time that is happening, we see the guy in the yellow suit stripping off his clothes, only to mutate once again and transform his body into sweet Sophia, the one who never does anything and is always ready to help out. Once she returns to town, Elgin gives her the good news. Tomorrow, the plan will happen, and they will build a rope ladder so the boys can get out of the cave. So she immediately offers to help them, saying she is very good at knitting. At that moment, Clara tells her she is going to the barn for more rope, and Sophia offers to go with her. But once they walk away a bit, she reveals herself and shows her her true eyes, causing the girl to panic and freeze completely. There, Sophia tells her she will have to do her a very special favor if she doesn't want to end up like everyone who has gone into the woods at night. And Clara, totally gripped by fear, ends up giving in. In the clinic, Christy needs to go out to see Boyd, but she is terrified that Fatima's heart might suddenly stop. So she leaves an epinephrine shot nearby, so Marielle can inject it straight into her heart if something bad happens. Sophia takes Clara straight to her room, and as they walk up the stairs, we can see she has a knife in her hand. However, when Clara fearfully asks her if she is going to kill her, she says no, there would be nothing good in doing that. However, she really needs a favor from her. Clara believes Sophia wants to sabotage tomorrow's mission, but she couldn't be further from the truth. She wants them to go into those tunnels, but assures her that nothing good will come of it for them. Things will go very wrong for them, but right now, Clara could earn a huge reward that would allow her to go back home, but she must do exactly what Sophia tells her. Sophia confesses to her that they have the right idea. The bones are important, but they are completely wrong about the method. This mysterious place runs on rituals, and the method is just as important as the sacrifice itself. That is why she loves games so much. In fact, she is playing several right now, but there are a couple that need a little push of fun so they don't fade out, and that little push will be given by Clara immediately. At this exact moment, Sophia pulls out the knife and makes a pretty deep cut on her hand. The fact that she doesn't express any pain or show a single reaction on her face makes Clara realize she is dealing with something that is clearly not human. Right after that, Sophia makes a small cut on Clara and nicely asks her to relax and let her in. At the same time that is happening, the guys are explaining the plan in detail to Donna, for which they will need her valuable help and the truck. But she points out the flaws in the plan and the fact that they don't have the slightest clue what to do with the bones once they have them in their possession. Are they going to make a soup and whoever eats it goes straight home? They really have no idea what to do next, and that is exactly what terrifies her. On top of the fact that the guy in yellow can now enter the houses whenever he wants. Who knows what other great evil that could bring, and obviously, nobody will say it publicly, since that would cause widespread panic. Back with Henry, he is thinking deeply about what the anchor could be. One of the girls who survived the brutal puppet attack kindly offers him a cookie, but these are completely burnt. It definitely seems like she isn't having a good day. Even so, Henry decides to be polite and accepts one of the cookies, but the moment the burnt dough touches his mouth, it transports him straight back to the asylum next to his beloved son, who has brought him a delicious burger. Before Henry can even take a bite of the food, Victor is already asking him if he figured out what the anchor is, and Henry confesses that he has. It's him. His son is the only thing keeping him trapped in that place, and what motivated him to get into all that trouble in the first place. But what the doctor says is complete madness. Killing his own son in that world to live happily in this one is something he is simply not willing to do. But the adult Victor firmly tells him that that broken boy who grew up alone isn't real. It's just the fear in his mind. He is right here waiting for him alongside his true family, and they urgently need him, so he must let go of all that once and for all. That fictional world he created in his mind is what keeps him totally trapped. At that moment, Henry asks his son how he is supposed to do it, whether with his own hands or by throwing him off a cliff. He really has no idea how he could ever do something like that. And Victor tells him that once he accepts that that world isn't real, the environment itself will hand him whatever he needs to get it done. And at that exact instant, Henry snaps right back to the chair next to the burnt cookies. His sudden outburst is seen up close by his son, who tries to walk over out of concern, but Henry doesn't let him and asks him nicely to leave him alone for now. He has way too many things to think about, especially the terrible fact that they are asking him to kill him. Meanwhile, Christy is telling Boyd about the serious problem with Fatima. Her heart is at its limit, or even beyond the limit of what science could explain. And worst of all, the rate is dropping even lower. But he doesn't have time for those things right now. They are risking their entire lives on tomorrow's plan, so she will have to keep her stable until that happens, and then they will figure something out together. For now, he needs her to grab all the medical supplies she can and be right there when they pull up the tree, because they have no idea what shape the people going down there will be in. They might need urgent medical attention. As for Tabitha, she has finally decided to be completely honest with her kids and tell them the truth about the man in yellow and that he was inside their own house. At that moment, Julie tells her that all of this and their father's death happened because they kept investigating those things, and she needs to be ready to find out who will be the next to die. Now she knows perfectly well what it means. Knowledge always comes with a very high cost. Julie tries to make her mother see that she isn't some ancient savior who has lived in this place for a long time, but that she is simply losing her mind. This place completely destroys people's minds with lies, and if she really had lived there for so long, then she would know how the talismans work and why. But Tabitha doesn't have a clear answer for this. Julie just wants her to understand once and for all that she doesn't play such an important role and is only making them suffer with her constant craziness. It's time for them to focus solely on their family and on finding a way out of here, not on living trapped in the past. At the same time that is happening, we can see Clara arriving at the clinic, but she stays outside for a moment, holding a thermos of hot coffee and 2 cups. The next thing she does is squeeze the wound on her hand tightly and let exactly 2 drops of blood fall into the coffee. When Marielle welcomes her in, Clara just shyly tells her that she brought a family remedy for Fatima. It has always worked wonders for her whenever she feels a bit run down in health, so she truly hopes it does the same for her. With a steady step and a fake smile, she approaches Fatima and tells her that the family recipe will surely make her feel much better. It is a pretty delicious tea made from herbs and berries, which she will surely enjoy more if she drinks it nice and hot. The strange thing about the whole situation is that Clara insists way too much on her drinking it, so Fatima, who doesn't doubt her at all because of how kind she has been in the past, pours herself some. Once her part of the deal is completed, Clara leaves the clinic in tears, but she is careful not to let anyone anyone see her. Not too far from there, we see Victor having a sort of an intimate conversation with his mother's grave, asking her for advice. He really doesn't know what to do right now. His father is acting very strange, and it's clear he is having certain visions, but Victor doesn't know how to help him, especially when he won't even let him get close. Victor tells his mother that Tabitha promised him they would go home and be a happy family. He clings to that possibility with everything he has, but he isn't sure if his father can last through the time remaining for that to happen. And he wouldn't like to lose him in this awful place at all, because he knows that if anything happens, he will never get out of here. A few seconds later, the boy in white appears out of nowhere, and Victor firmly asks him to leave. This conversation is private, and he doesn't feel like talking to him right now. However, the boy worriedly points out to him that the others are doing something very dangerous. The boy tells him that Boyd's plan includes cutting down the bottle tree, and that simply cannot happen. He has to stop them no matter what, whatever it takes. That particular tree is way too important and cannot fall under any circumstances. Meanwhile, Boyd is in the church having a very serious conversation with God. He tells him that a long time ago, he made it clear they don't like each other. Sometimes, he doesn't understand why he does things, and frankly, he couldn't care less. He doesn't care what happens to himself, but he does care about what happens to his son, to Fatima, and to everyone who puts their full trust in his actions. He accepted his own fate a long time ago, but he begs him from the bottom of his heart not to let him be the ruin of everyone else's hopes. Whatever crazy thing he has planned for his future, he can go ahead and do it with total confidence, but he just needs these people to make it back home safely. Everything else can go to hell. A few seconds later, Sarah shows up and tells him that Kenny asked her to come, but before starting the conversation, Boyd makes her firmly promise that she won't repeat a single word of what they are about to talk about right now. Once she promises to do so, Boyd confesses the serious issue of what is happening with Fatima. Her heart is stopping, her blood flow is too, and they don't have the slightest clue what is going on with her. Yet she keeps functioning as if there were no problem at all. That immediately reminds him of the day Fatima went missing, and Sarah came to him saying she could hear mysterious voices laughing. From what he understood, those voices were laughing because they were completely sure he wouldn't be able to save Fatima, but he did, which means they were wrong and don't actually know everything. And that is exactly what he needs to believe right now. Knowing that the monsters aren't perfect and that they don't have the slightest clue about everything that could happen. But if Fatima really dies, then his whole theory goes straight to hell. She doesn't have a clear answer for him right now, but she firmly promises that she will be by his side tomorrow, no matter what happens. Whether this means they will finally get out of there, or if everyone ends up dead. She is just so tired of hiding in her house all the time. Back with Tabitha, Julie's harsh words have started running through her mind, and she holds the talisman in her hands, trying to understand how they work and why. What do those mysterious carvings and the shape of the rock mean? Maybe the answer to the mystery of this entire place lies in something as simple as the rock that has protected them from the very beginning. A few seconds later, Ethan shows up with a question that has also been haunting him. He went looking for the Lake of Tears because his father told him to do so, but after they found it, very bad things happened, and Roger ended up dying. So now he is thinking that maybe it wasn't his father who gave him that order, but the guy in yellow. Ethan confesses that this place is trying to make them feel scared all the time, so they can't see any hope. And if she really believes she has lived many lives, then she should start listening to what they are trying to tell her. A few seconds later, Tabitha manages to see something extremely disturbing. All along the street, there are children who were sacrificed, everyone with their eyes fixed on her and pointing their fingers at her in an accusing way. At the station, Jade has managed to set up a small, short-range radio. He won't be able to communicate directly, but he will be able to do Morse code, so they know what is happening down below. Right then, Victor shows up and starts screaming at them desperately that the boy in white told him the tree is important and they cannot cut it down for anything in the world. Unfortunately, Boyd is not willing to listen to him at this moment. Removing the tree is a fundamental part of the plan, and Victor walks away very angry, saying he will stop them and won't let them rip out his mother's legacy. But Boyd is not willing to leave anything to chance. As soon as Victor tries to leave, he chases him down quickly, tackles him in the middle of the street, and puts handcuffs on him, firmly telling him that there are many people risking their lives to make this work, and they won't let him ruin the plan just because a boy dressed in white who nobody else can see told him otherwise. Once Victor is handcuffed, Tabitha shows up with something very important to tell him. The only people who should go down and rescue the bones are her and Jade. They are the true chosen ones, and the ones who failed to save them in the past. The children clearly told her that she must be the one to go down there. Tabitha shows him the talisman, where a carved rune can be seen for each sacrificed child, and the shape she has successfully managed to decipher is that of two people joined together, so she needs them to be the only ones to go down into that dangerous place. Any extra person who descends into the caves will inevitably die. That is exactly what the children have been trying to tell them this whole time. At this highly crucial moment, where Tabitha says something very important, they will only be able to do this once, and the way things are done matters too much, which is exactly what the man in yellow said before. Now, maybe they could finally have the right way to find the long-awaited way out. She desperately begs him to trust her word. It has to be her and Jade as the only ones going down. That is how things must be done from the very beginning. At sunset, Boyd does his routine patrol of every single day. The bell rings, alerting people to return quickly to the safety of their homes. But Sophia waits for him in the middle of the street and falsely tells him she is on her way to the diner, where they are working hard on the rope ladder, and she is completely sure she can be of great help with that, even though her hand is still hurt. Boyd thanks her deeply for her help and for her great willingness. Then he goes on with his daily rounds, completely ignoring the fact that he is standing right in front of the man who has caused so much pain to everyone in this place, and who will surely thoroughly enjoy killing him and eating him at the exact right moment. Once she is at the diner, Sophia gets straight to work on a part of the ladder, to which she is obviously not giving her true attention, since she expects it to break at the exact right moment. A few seconds later, after night fully falls, the monsters show up and silently position themselves right outside the window. Acosta firmly asks everyone to stay focused and ignore them completely. They need to keep working hard, but this is the perfect distraction for Sophia to sneakily pull out a knife and start making precise cuts in the rope so that it won't have the strength the team so desperately needs. At the exact same time that is happening, Fatima wakes up terrified in the clinic with a massive pain in her abdomen, and when she goes to get out of bed, she realizes with horror that she is losing a massive amount of hair at a highly accelerated rate. And worst of all, the black veins have started spreading rapidly way past her abdomen, and the pain is becoming almost unbearable. At the station, Boyd needs to talk about something very seriously with Kenny. In case things go wrong tomorrow and he ends up dying, he needs him to take his place as leader, which is why he is not included in tomorrow's dangerous mission. The boy flat out refuses to obey that order, but Boyd reminds him that when they tried to test the totems for the first time, Kenny made him stay behind, and now it's his fair turn to return the favor. Once the boy accepts with resignation, Boyd pulls out the last bit of whiskey left in his bottle, and they toast together to better days, knowing perfectly well that maybe tomorrow the whole town will end up dead. The next morning, Tabitha does the hardest thing she has done in this entire time: say goodbye to her beloved kids and tell them that she must be the one to go down into the deep caves, and she promises them from her heart that she will return, though in reality, she isn't completely sure if that is even true. At the exact same time that is happening, the team is already working hard on the tree. They have the truck ready and shovels in hand. On top of Sophia keeping a close eye on the radio, the plan is simple: wrap the heavy chain around the tree and connect it to the truck, while the rest of the guys start digging to make sure that when they apply force, it comes out easily. Once everything is ready and the radios are perfectly synchronized, it's time to enter the dark tunnels, and they do so through a small opening in the middle of the woods. While all of this is going on, we can see Elgin in the storage room, meticulously checking the last of the boxes Boyd ordered him to look through, searching for clues about what the mysterious guy in yellow might be hiding. The boy ends up stumbling upon a group of photos taken by someone who is no longer part of this world, but in one of them, you can see something that clearly takes his breath away, and you don't need to have both eyes working to realize that this is something extremely important. Meanwhile, we see Clara go look for Sophia to tell her that now it will be only Jade and Tabitha going down into the tunnel, and when she finds out about all of this, she gets completely furious because that ruins exactly what she was planning to go wrong. 2 seconds later, Elgin shows shows up with a goofy smile on his face and shows Sophia the photo, asking her curiously why she appears in a photograph that seems to be easily over 40 years old. What he thought might help him get to know Sophia a little better ends up sentencing him to death right away, as she coldly admits that it is indeed her in the photo and explains to him that she can only take the physical form of people who have died in this awful place. Since Clara is under Sophia's full control, she steps out of the room to lock the door and pull down the blinds. Meanwhile, Elgin can't understand absolutely anything of what is happening, but a few seconds later, death itself comes for him. The boy's muscle and big size do not work at all against her. The exact moment Sophia puts a hand on his body, he loses complete control of his limbs, and the scene drastically shifts to show us the dark tunnels where Jade and Tabitha have finally arrived. Against all odds, the map Jade made works perfectly, and they manage to successfully reach the cave where the bones are supposedly located. But before digging them up, they need to seal the entrance, so they use a plastic sheet and duct tape. Once the plastic is in place, they hang the talisman with all the hope in the world that it will work and keep the monsters from breaking in while they are digging. It is at this exact moment that they send the third signal to Boyd, so he can start pulling up the tree while they dig for the bones. The noise Tabitha and Jade make while digging ends up completely waking up the monsters, who head over there quickly with their signature smiles, as if they knew dinner had arrived. A foot under the dirt, they find a massive rock that seems to have a circular shape, so they start searching for the edges. Realizing it is the lid of a tomb, they use crowbars and begin to move it slowly, but they need way more strength than Tabitha can provide. Luckily, the plan ends up working, and under that huge piece of rock lie the bones of all the children, which they must now quickly put into bags to get out of there as soon as possible. The only big problem is that the monsters have already reached them, and now it's time to find out if the small plastic sheet with the talisman will be enough protection. But that is something we will find out in 7 more days, because the scene fades to black and the mystery prevails. So make sure to leave your like and your comment. See you in a week. The 10th chapter kicks off by reminding us of a few crucial details, like the connection between Fatima and Smiley, which is shutting down her vital organs but also allows her to affect him somehow, even to the point of halting his attacks. On top of that, we have the offer made to Henry to live in a perfect world alongside his son, who grew up as a real adult with kids and a family of his own. But the steep price for living in that place is murdering his son, the very one he spent years traumatized over in the town, far from his company. And let's not forget the previous episode's climax when Elgin uncovered the horrible truth and, instead of tipping everyone else off, went straight to Sophia to ask her why on earth she was in a photo from 40 years ago. Way to go, Elgin. Every single one of us would have done the exact same thing. But the absolute most important thing is the launch of the plan that could get everyone out of here and is putting multiple lives on the line. The plan that caused Victor to threaten them, landing him in a holding cell while the rest of the group gets ready to rip out the bottle tree to save Fatima and Jay, who are just about to find out if their idea actually works. Since the pile of bones they found is huge, they need more time to pack them into the bags. But time is the one thing they don't have. The monsters have arrived, and the only thing standing between them and death is a sheet of plastic and a talisman they've pinned all their hopes on. Just catching sight of the monsters through the plastic causes Tabitha to freeze for a few seconds, but Jay begs her to stay focused and look away. They have to get this done as fast as possible, since it looks like the plastic actually works, and the monsters can't break in. They quickly start stuffing the bones into the backpacks, trying not to think about what they are, focused only on moving as fast as they can before their luck runs out. And this is when Jay drops the harsh truth on her. Once the tree comes down, nothing will protect this chamber from the monsters, and he is going to sacrifice himself to hold them off long enough for her to get up the ladder. He lied because he knew it was the only way to get this far, and Tabitha has to be the one to break the cycle, since her kids deserve to go home, and there is nobody waiting for him. Once they have all the bones packed into the backpacks, Jay flashes the signal in Morse code, and the guys start ripping the tree out using the chains and the truck. Inch by inch, the tree begins to give and wobbles, but when the ceiling finally cracks open, the monsters burst into the chamber, just as Jay had anticipated. The guys are 10 seconds away from being eaten alive by those things. Luckily, the sunlight seems to affect them, keeping them from closing in for the time being. When the tree finally topples over, the hole it leaves is almost perfect. and the team gets ready to lower the ladder as fast as they can. Once the ladder is right in front of them, Tabitha starts climbing up slowly, but that's when we see the cuts Sophia made the night before, and the ladder can't hold their weight, snapping completely. The strangest part of all, and what nobody saw coming, is that the sky goes pitch black in the middle of the day, as if a massive eclipse just happened in a split second. Now the monsters are free to move around at will and corner the guys, who are left with absolutely no exit strategy. Once the darkness sets in, the monsters reveal their true faces and slowly close in on Jay and Tabitha, out to make them pay for breaking into their home and trying to steal what belongs to them. However, the eclipse doesn't come alone, and the entire cavern begins to shake. In a single instant, a massive earthquake hits, putting everyone's lives on the line, including the terrifying creatures that were just about to tear our protagonists apart. The earthquake puts absolutely everyone at risk. Every single house, the police station, and the lives of the townspeople hang in the balance for a few seconds. But that tiny window of time allows Tabitha and Jay to flee through the tunnels. Now, Boyd and the rest of the team have to follow suit. Since they are stranded in the middle of the woods without any weapons, and the rest of the monsters have come out to hunt them down, they have to forget about Jay and Tabitha for now and scramble into the trucks as fast as possible to make it back to the safety of the town before they end up dead too. Back with the ground team, they can hear the monsters' shrieks right on their heels. This time, they've stopped their slow crawl, and for the first time in the entire series, we actually see the monsters sprinting in a full-blown chase. After trying to escape through different paths, Tabitha makes a wrong turn and ends up leading them into a cave where there seems to be some kind of window made out of bones. The only problem is that the monsters are right on their tails. At that exact moment, the earthquake strikes again, saving their lives once more. Inside the truck, Fatima is completely losing her mind. Seeing the monsters has done something to her brain, and the second Boyd gets distracted, she tries to grab his gun to end her life and put a stop to her suffering. The gunshot ends up shattering the window, leaving Boyd with no choice but to use force to pin her down, barking at her to shut her mouth and stay still. But she keeps screaming and crying, making their escape way more complicated. The wreckage left by the earthquake inside the clinic has caused Fatima to lose her patience, making her ready to risk heading out into the dark to look for her friends. But Marielle tells her she can't do it, and that's when she drops the truth about her body's condition. Her heart is beating slower and slower, to the point where she shouldn't even be alive right now. The moment Fatima learns the truth, something even weirder happens, and her connection to Smiley kicks back in. She can actually see him closing in on the clinic, and she warns Marielle that they need to lock all the doors immediately because that thing is about to show up. The problem is that when they look for the talisman, it isn't where it's supposed to be, meaning the earthquake might have knocked it down, so they need to find it as soon as possible. Marielle spots it under a heavy shelf and crawls over to grab it, but the exact second she gets her hands on it, Smiley has already pushed the door open and burst into the clinic. She has no choice but to bolt into another room with her friend and try to secure it before the monster catches up to them. Unfortunately, that plan fails, and Smiley manages to corner them. The moment he locks eyes with Fatima, he calls her mother and smiles in a deeply creepy way. Her friend tries to defend her, but that only triggers the creature's rage, and he reveals his true face before lunging at her. In a split second, Smiley wrenches the knife away from Marielle and uses it to slice her stomach open, nearly cutting her in half. Right then, Fatima screams at him to stop, and something in the monster's brain seems to completely malfunction. After doing his dynamic damage, the monster backs off with his grim smile and tells her he'll see her real soon, leaving Marielle bleeding out on the floor with a wound so severe that Christy wouldn't even stand a chance of patching it up. Just as Smiley is walking out of the clinic, the truck pulls up, and Christy notices him smiling at her, so she barks at Ellis to hit the gas. She manages to get inside just in the nick of time to say goodbye to her love. The only thing Marielle asks her for is one last kiss, and right after that happens, she peacefully passes away. Next, the narrative cuts to the diner, where we find out that Sophia hasn't killed Elgin. Instead, she is offering him the exact same deal she made with Clara, freedom from this place in exchange for his help. The games she's been running have taken up way more time than they should, and even though she is having a blast, she needs some partners in crime this time around. Sophia tells him the only reason it's pitch black outside is because the end is drawing near, and nobody makes it out alive in the end, except for the ones she handpicks. So now he is staring down a major decision, and she urges him to be reasonable. The moment Sophia turns her back, Elgin tries to make a run for it, but Clara steps right in his way. That's when Sophia realizes he is going to be a much tougher tougher nut to crack. So, she demands his hands to seal the same blood pact she previously made with Clara, but Elgin starts to pray, and that completely sets Sophia off. With just a touch of her hands, she triggers a massive heart attack right then and there. A few seconds later, blood starts pouring from his eyes and mouth, and death comes for the boy. The strangest part is that at that exact moment, the sun breaks through again. Sophia steps out, telling Clara to get rid of the body as fast as possible before anyone sees it, since, as she mentioned before, the end is closing in. In his room, Henry is cleaning up the mess from the earthquake and wondering why it went pitch black in the middle of the day. It's a question Donna has no answer for, though she is just as worried about the ground team. But this kind of event only proves to Henry that this place might not even be real, and that his son on the outside might be completely right. Donna suggests that the best thing he can do right now is head over to the station to check on Victor, but Henry refuses. He hasn't made up his mind yet, but this is where his son's words finally click. Once he agrees to do it, this world will provide everything he needs, and right as he picks up a can from the floor, he discovers 3 bullets inside. Donna tells him that Victor used to keep a gun in his lunchbox before Boyd confiscated it, so it's most likely sitting at the police station. It's just like the Victor on the outside told him. This world has handed him exactly what he needs to kill his son, the one living in this fake world, and once he pulls the trigger, he can finally get out of there to live the life he always deserved. With the bullets in his hand, Henry can't believe what's happening, and right then Donna steps up and tells him he needs to go downstairs and see his son, emphasizing it's the most important thing he can do right now. So just like his son's vision told him, he now has everything he needs and the perfect opportunity. All he has to do is take it, get the gun, and use those bullets to murder his fake son. That way, he can finally escape this place by destroying the anchor tying him down. Meanwhile, Boyd makes sure everyone is dropped off safely at Colony House and then hooks back up with the team to find out what went down at the clinic. Once Fatima tells him that the monster just smiled at her and called her mother, it becomes crystal clear that their connection is way more real than they ever thought. When Boyd steps into the room, he just finds Christy clutching her lover's body, completely refusing to let go. So he just walks over and wraps his arms around her, promising they will do whatever it takes to make things right. At that exact moment, the scene cuts away, and we see a series of red lightning bolts bursting out of the hole where the tree was ripped open, lighting up the sky and triggering a storm unlike anything they have ever seen before. The lightning is so intense and frequent that it gives everyone goosebumps, making it feel like a bolt could strike the ground at any second, bringing the very death they've all been dodging. Staring up at the sky, Randall has no choice but to snap at Boyd and ask what the hell they just did. And yeah, this really looks like the end of the line for everyone. Despite the chaos, the group manages to make it back to Colony House. The trouble is, when Tabitha's kids look around for her, they hit a wall with the bad news. They never actually got them out of the hole, and nobody has a clue where they are. Convinced their mom isn't coming back, Julie and Ethan head inside, completely numb to everything that's unfolding. But since their tears aren't the main focus right now, the narrative cuts back to Sophia. She slips into the church and steals the protective talisman, then takes off to repeat the same pattern elsewhere, making sure not a single house is safe by the time night falls. Meanwhile, Henry arrives at the police station and starts tossing the place upside down, looking for the gun, fully convinced he is stuck in a simulation or some twisted nightmare he desperately needs to wake up from. After tearing through every single drawer one by one, he finally finds a revolver in perfect working order. All he needs now are the bullets in his pocket and the guts to make the choice that's been tearing him apart, killing his son for a shot at escaping this place. Just as Henry slips the gun into his pocket, Kenny catches him and asks what he's doing there. Henry claims he's looking for his son, mentioning he heard he got locked up and just wanted to make sure he was okay. Before Kenny can press him with any more questions, Henry books it out of there. Back with the kids, Donna knows she needs to give them some kind of pep talk to keep their hopes up, but the second she gets them seated at the kitchen table, the cabinet doors start rattling violently, like a pissed-off ghost is pulling the strings, and plates start flying everywhere. Terrified, Ethan realizes everything is playing out exactly the way Victor warned him. Pretty soon, everyone is going to end up dead, becoming food for the old man in yellow, leaving him completely stranded just like Victor used to be, and he doesn't want that. Julie promises him that he will never be left alone, swearing she'll do everything in her power to keep that from happening. But looking into her eyes, you can tell that even the thought of doing something reckless is crossing her mind. At the station, Boyd is changing out of his blood-stained shirt. When Acosta gets back, she tells him they have to head right back to the hole. They can't throw in the towel, but he has no clue if Tabitha and Jay are even still alive. He doesn't know if that bizarre eclipse could strike again, so he isn't willing to put everyone else in jeopardy one more time. In a fit of rage, Boyd snaps that nobody is stepping foot outside or putting themselves in danger. But just as he tries to lay down the law, Sarah tells him to shut up and points out that the radio is buzzing to life, meaning Jay and Tabitha are still breathing and trying to reach them. Down in the cave where they got trapped, it's revealed that the earthquake completely sealed off the entrance, leaving them totally stranded with the bones in their possession, just praying for a rescue. The bad news is that the radio battery just died, and Jay has no way of knowing if the team even picked up his message. Now, they just have to cling to hope and wait it out, unless they can manage to smash the window or dig their way around it. Taking a closer look, we realize that Jay was dead wrong. It's not bones blocking their way out, but dry branches that could easily snap, or maybe they just don't run that deep. Meanwhile, back at the clinic, the guys have wrapped up Marielle's body to give her a proper burial, and even though Boyd desperately needs Christy's help right now, she is in no condition to give it. Looking completely checked out and running on pure grief, Randall and Christy head off toward the church, totally unaware that the protective talisman is missing and that they'll be sitting ducks the second night falls. Once they leave, Boyd lets the rest of the group know that Tabitha and Jay are still alive, announcing that he's heading back into the woods. He insists on going alone to avoid putting anyone else on the line, but his son asks what he's going to do if they're injured, pointing out that he can't carry both of them by himself and that playing the lone wolf sheriff just isn't going to cut it this time. Even though Ellis tries to hold her back, Fatima stands her ground as an adult and tells Boyd that she can sense the monsters, meaning she can act as his personal danger detector down in those tunnels. As for Henry, he's in Victor's room loading the bullets into the gun. Just 2 seconds later, his son knocks on the door, forcing him to slide the weapon under the bedsheet, hoping to have one last conversation before he has to pull the trigger. Victor talks to him about the eclipse and how terrifying the earthquake was, bringing up that they shouldn't be alone right now, and then asks if he's doing okay, since he looks a bit shaken up and sweaty. Henry just tells him he's been lost in thought. That's when Victor opens up and asks if he did something wrong, admitting he noticed Henry has been avoiding him and doesn't want to spend time around him. He tells him that whatever it was, he wants to apologize for everything, for lying to him, and for telling him about the man in yellow and what happened to Mom. Victor pours his heart out to his dad, begging for forgiveness over and over, wanting nothing more than for things to go back to how they used to be, so his dad can trust him again. But right then, Henry pulls out the gun and starts telling him about the wonderful life he has waiting on the outside and the offer he was given. The only thing he has to do right now is destroy the anchor and shoot him, so he can finally reunite with his real son and the family waiting for him out there. With the gun pointed directly at his face, Victor tries to tell him that those things lied to him, that there is nothing waiting for him on the outside except for him, and that it's time to stop. He doesn't have to do this. He's just confused. Just as Henry is about to pull the trigger, Ethan bursts in and screams at him not to do it, but Henry ends up swinging the gun around toward the kid. Since he's got 3 bullets, he can't risk letting him escape. After a few seconds of pure tension, Victor finds his courage and lunges at his father, knocking the gun out of his hand and demanding asking him why on earth he is doing this. Victor yells that, out of everyone in this place, he was the one who was supposed to protect him, leaving Henry with nothing left to do but weep and apologize, sobbing that he just wanted to be with him in the outside world. At that moment, the scene cuts away, and we see Sophia wrapping up her route, stealing every single talisman, and making sure the upcoming night is going to be incredibly dangerous for everyone. One of the last places she hits is Jay's house, where she hooks up with Clara, who has also been doing the exact same thing, helping her swipe all the talismans. Once Sophia has every last one of them in her possession, she takes off to hide them where nobody will ever find them. Back with Boyd, he, his son, and Fatima are standing at the cave entrance, ready to head inside and find their friends. But before taking the risk, he warns them that if things go sideways, the two of them need to run as fast as they can. He knows these tunnels better than they do, and they shouldn't look back for him. So, after his son promises to leave him behind if things get ugly, they brace themselves and go in. After a while, Tabitha realizes they can't keep digging with their bare hands. Jay's fingers are already bleeding, leaving them with no choice but to start using the bones as makeshift tools to scratch their way out. But the moment moment Tabitha picks up the skull of one of the children, it's as if she can instantly recognize them and see every single moment they ever approached her. She can see them smiling and happy, which gives her a major surge of hope that she can actually do something to finally set them free. Once the group gets deeper into the tunnels, Fatima's senses sharpen, and she suddenly barks at everyone to freeze and keep quiet. Moments later, the sounds of the monsters moving away echo through the dark, proving that her ability actually works. After a few minutes, Boyd manages to track down Tabitha and Jay, helping them break through the wood blocking their exit, while Fatima tries to use her connection to guide the monsters away and buy them some time. Realizing their bare hands won't cut it, Boyd pulls his gun and shatters the wood with 2 clean shots, letting the guys scramble out. Against all odds, they are back together. This is where the plot drops a massive bombshell that nobody saw coming. Fatima screams at them to run, leaving Ellis to watch in horror as she transforms into one of those creatures. Her fingers stretch out and her nails grow until they look like straight-up switchblades. She has chosen to stay behind to take on the monsters herself and get payback for what they did to Marielle. The season finale wraps up with Sophia crossing paths with the boy in white, who warns her that the humans have the bones and that she's going to lose this time. But Sophia just shoots back, telling him she's always admired his optimism, mocking that it's so refreshing every single time she locks in another victory. 2 seconds later, Sophia drops all the talismans down a hollow tree, making sure nobody can ever get them back, and guaranteeing that the slaughterhouse the town becomes every night is about to happen all over again.